someone who wants to come up, and so I'll go ahead and bring them up. This is Small Demo.
Hello?
What's up, Small Demo?
How's it going, man? Before I start talking, I'm gonna say one thing, okay?
Yeah, what's up?
We support all Christians if it makes them happy and if it makes you move on and it really helps you find peace in your life. I think that's a good thing. I'm not here to say you should stop being Christian. I'm here to debate the existence of God because, in my opinion, modern science and modern theories and modern proof vastly outweigh the proof and evidence that God exists. And like the things you were saying, you were like listing a bunch of things that don't necessarily make sense. You're saying God exists because of natural beauty in the world, which that doesn't make sense at all.
Wait, so
Big tuning of the
let's slow
universe.
down real quick. Yeah, so let's slow down real quick. So you mentioned that with the development of modern science, that seems to be at some odds, like undercutting or inconsistent with the existence of God. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, tell you what, why don't I read you a quote real quick from Charles Towns, who is a physics professor and is a Nobel Prize winner. He says, quote, "This is a very special universe. It's remarkable that it came out just this way. The laws of gravity and nuclear laws and magnetic theory, quantum mechanics, and so on have to be just the way they are for us to be here." Paul Davies, who is an agnostic turned deist and is a physics professor at Cambridge, says, "The really amazing thing is not that life on Earth is balanced on a knife edge, but that the entire universe is balanced on a knife edge, and it would be total chaos if any of the natural constants were off even slightly. You see, even if you dismiss man as a chance happening, the fact remains that the universe seems unreasonably suited to the existence of life, almost contrived, you might say a put-up job. Taken together, they provide impressive evidence that life as we know it depends very sensitively on the form of the laws of physics and on some seemingly fortuitous accidents in the actual values that nature has chosen for various particle masses, force strengths, and so on. If we could play God and select values for these natural quantities at whim by twiddling a set of knobs, we would find that almost all knob settings would render the universe uninhabitable." I have many such quotes, such as these. John Polkinghorne, who's a Cambridge particle physicist, "The laws of nature would just exactly fine-tuned to allow that to happen. It couldn't happen in just any old world. That's a very striking fact about the world." And again, you can ask yourself, is that a happy accident, or is this the sign of some divine purpose behind the very fruitful history of the universe that's turned a ball of energy into a home of saints and mathematicians? Frank Tipler, who's a
Okay.
cosmologist, mathematical physics professor, I literally have an entire stream of this.
I
So
know,
if you come in here and you try to tell me that there is anything contradicting about the scientific discoveries in our world that go against God, I'm going to have a really good time, because that's just not even remotely
Okay,
true.
so can I respond to you? I'm
Absolutely,
familiar
go
with
for it.
the quote you read. I understand this, and I disagree with you and the person. Okay, and I think there's not that many people that follow. Let me finish my thing because I already know you're going to try to jump in. There's
Go
a
for
lot
it.
of scientists that don't agree with him either. The main point being is that just because humans exist doesn't necessarily mean there has to be someone making humans. Okay, the idea of life being so good and life being such a coincidence is kind of biased towards humans because we like to think our existence.
Wait, can I pause you real quick?
Yeah, please, can I like I said, I want to finish my thing before you, I'll let you respond.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, go for it. Yeah,
The
go for it.
existence of humans isn't necessarily like this giant, beautiful thing like that we got lucky for. I mean, we are lucky that we exist, but that this is a bias towards humans, right? I mean, if humans existed or not, the universe doesn't care, right? We only exist because of chance. And it's not like if the knobs were twisted differently, like you said, it's not like the universe cares at all. We came out of nothing, and we're lucky that we exist.
So
And we're lucky
I'm
that
going to go
the
ahead and
process
interrupt
of
you.
evolution went through so
I'm
that
going to interrupt you
humans
real
can have
quick.
consciousness. Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
so I'm going to interrupt you because you're kind of rambling and you're not addressing my argument. So my argument is that there's a
did.
variety of data points in the world that are better explained by theism than by atheism. So if I have data points which are expected under theism but are highly improbable under atheism, that just by definition constitutes evidence for theism. Now, one of the things that I just noted was fine-tuning in the universe. Now, what I just said, that is not controversial. That is what the overwhelming majority of cosmologists, physicists,
How does
astrophysicists,
that
that's what they
prove
believe. And I can
theism at
give you atheists who will say this exact things. I can give you quotes from Stephen Hawking. I can give you quotes
Stephen
from.
Hawking did not say
I mean, I can
theism
go
was
down a
missing
line here.
from atheism. Theism.
No, he didn't
Just
say that. But no, wait, pause. No, I said, Stephen, I'm talking about a data point, which is that the universe is fine-tuned for life. Now, Stephen Hawking
no,
would
it's
disagree
not.
about what the best explanation for that. Okay, so are you disagreeing? Wait, so let's make clear what you're
As a
contesting.
whole,
You're
no.
contesting. Well, no, let me finish asking the question. Are you contesting that our universe is fine-tuned for life? And what I mean by fine-tuned for life is that when we look at kind of the parameters that govern the universe, if we were to look at the total range of values that those could be in, that the life permitting range is very narrow. So an example that I think Robin Collins gives is if you were to imagine a dial of something like the cosmological constant, if we were to imagine that as a dial with many different notches on it, there's only a narrow range of notches that would be life permitting. That's what it means to say that the universe is fine-tuned for life, that there's these narrow range of life permitting values, and the range of non-life permitting values is vastly
Okay, so
outnumbers the life permitting. So are you denying that the universe is fine-tuned in that way?
um, from how you explain that, then my answer is no. But let me explain. Okay,
Okay. So
from
wait.
how
Let's
we
pause
see
there.
it.
Let's pause there. Wait. No,
Oh
let's
my
pause.
God.
Let's. Okay. So we both agree that there's a variety of these cosmological, these initial conditions, quantities, stuff like that. There's a variety of these things in the universe that if they were off just a little bit, that we would not be able to have life.
If what
So
you're
we agree
saying
on
is
that,
say
right?
the particles from the periodic table were different, then yes, obviously we wouldn't exist, and we need all these different particles like carbon, oxygen. Obviously, we need these things for humans to exist, but this doesn't necessarily mean all these elements that make up
So okay.
humans
So
are the
let me
most
ask it. So let
common
me ask this
elements
question.
throughout the whole universe. Okay,
So let
we
me ask
got
this question.
lucky
No,
that
let me
our
ask the question.
particles got
Chill.
rearranged in a way
You're
that
not
made
going to talk
us.
over me, dude. It's not going to happen. If you
Well, you're not
continue to
letting
talk
me.
over
You're
me,
not
I'm
letting
going to
me
kick you.
speak.
No, I'm going to let you speak. But here's how this is going to work, okay? I want to give you the chance to talk to me. I'm not going to let you just ramble and try to connect a bunch of points together. We're going to have a dialogue. I'm
I'm
going to
trying
let
to
you
feed
speak,
into
but
the
I'm going to
dialogue.
guide the dialogue. Yeah, I'm going to guide the dialogue. And if you talk over me, I'm going to kick you off and bring up the next person. I'm just telling you this is how it's going to work. I want to have a good conversation with you, but I'm not going to let you just ramble and just do stream of conscious atheists Reddit posts like
No,
slogans at me.
I'm not
So now,
rambling, and I'm
like,
not
we
having a
just
direct.
agreed. Well, wait, no, listen. We just agreed that there's this fine tuning of the universe. Is that not very surprising if atheism is true? Isn't it really surprising that we would find all
No,
these different parameters set just in the right way?
no. And if I try
Why
to
is how
explain,
and
you're gonna
what?
say I'm
How
rambling.
go for it? Okay, so
Okay.
your claim is that if there is no God, if nothing designed the universe, it's not at all surprising that we should find all these different dials of the universe set on just the precise range they need to be in order to have life. And some of these fine tuning, by the way, is things like if things were different by 1 part in 10 raised to the 60th power, things like that. You don't think that that's surprising? You don't think that's improbable under atheism?
Um, so, like I said in the beginning, which you called rambling, just because we exist and because the particles match together in a way that made us does not mean that we're lucky or that the periodic table and all the elements in the Big Bang aligned us specifically. We don't
Okay, wait.
exist
So
because someone willed us to. We exist
wait, no, let's pause. Whoa, let's pause because you're not addressing my argument. You're just making
I did.
assertions. You're saying, no, you're just saying, oh, well, whatever, we just got lucky. We don't exist because X, Y, Z. I'm specifically asking you a question. Let's say that I had let's suppose I had a big lottery system. So, those big cages where they put all the balls in
Yeah.
and they turn the thing and they pull things out. Let's say that there are 10 trillion white balls in that lottery ball system, and let's say that there is one orange ball. And so if it's a fair lottery, we turn it, and there's a 1 out of trillion chance that we get an orange ball or something out of there. Now at that point, let's suppose that in this lottery system, someone is going to pull a ball out of that system 100 times. And if all 100 of those balls that get pulled out are orange, you're going to live. And if even one of those balls that gets pulled out is white, if it's not orange, it's the other color, then you are going to be unalived in a very slow and painful way. Now let's say
What?
you yeah, no, listen, so what should we expect now if we pull out 100 orange balls? If that was truly random, that would be very surprising. If there was no one intervening, if there was no one who's
You're
watching out for
making a
you and rigging
major
things
flaw.
behind the scenes. No,
You're
no, no, I'm not. No, yes or no? Is that not very surprising? Wouldn't we be surprised to see that happening
Yeah,
if it
that's
was
a very
truly
rare
random?
chance. But again, this
Okay,
is
okay. So now let's
subjective
wait. I
opinion.
have a question. No, wait. No, now listen. If somebody was intervening, if somebody was rigging the system, so to speak, to make sure that the orange balls came out, is that end result of the 100 orange balls coming out? Is that not more expected under that theory of somebody rigging the system?
You think that I don't? Humans existing is a very galactically rare. Like
No, no, no.
we're a
Answer the
very.
question. No, 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 no,
Yes,
no.
what you're
Answer the
saying is true.
question.
Yes, what you're saying is
Okay,
true.
okay. So what that
By this
means,
line
what
of
that
thinking, that
means.
would be very
Yeah, yeah.
rare. Yes, I agree with you.
Okay, okay, so then let's follow that logic. So when we look at the universe, we see a variety of these dials, a variety of these knobs, and they have these large ranges, and they have to be in a very specific range. And it's incredibly improbable if just from chance, all of these specific knobs came to be turned this way by chance. That is very unexpected if there's no one tinkering with those knobs with intentionality.
Unexpected
However,
from whose
if
point
our
of view? Can you
universe
answer
is
this? Unexpected
specifically, one
from
second, let me
whose point of
finish.
view?
No, no, let me finish. I'll
This
let you ask
this
your
one
question. I'll
argument
let you
destroys
ask your
everything.
question.
What you're
I will
saying.
let you ask your
Okay,
question. If you keep talking on me, I'm going to kick you
go
off.
ahead,
I
man.
will let you ask your question. Okay. So if all these dials are set in this way, that is very unexpected that we should see a universe like this if no one's tinkering with those dials. However, if our theory is that the universe was created by someone who intentionally wants life to be here and has structured the universe in this way, then us finding all these dials set in this way, well, that's not surprising at all. In fact, something like that might even just be expected. And the fact that that is expected under theism but not expected under atheism, by definition, means that is evidence for theism. So you have to engage with the argument. You can't just stick your head in
I'm
the ground and
engaging
keep
with the
repeating,
argument,
"Oh,
man.
we got lucky, nothing designed us," stuff like that. So go ahead and ask any
Okay,
questions or say what you'd like
so
to say.
by the knob, you were saying the knobs, right? Isn't that very lucky?
Yeah.
Lucky from whose point of view? Please answer this question. Lucky from whose point of view?
What do you mean?
Who's saying it's lucky? It's lucky that that we
We
exist.
are.
Humans are thinking that we're lucky. Okay, why does
Yeah.
our opinion of us being lucky matter at all? We could exist or we
I
could not
never claimed
exist,
that it
and
did.
nothing in the universe would
I
change.
never claimed it
We
did.
don't matter in this
I
universe.
never
Okay,
claimed it
again, you
did.
said I could talk.
Okay,
Please,
that has
please.
all of
This
that's
is a
irrelevant.
dialogue.
All of that
Okay,
is
so let me
irrelevant.
get my point because you gave your point. Okay,
Go
my
for it.
point is the
Go for it.
knobs. All there's 100 trillion different balls, and we picked out the right order that makes life possible. This is all from the human perspective. We got lucky
Okay, so
to the
wait.
point from humans. We all think that we got
Oh,
created
wait.
from
But
this
you're
little
assuming we got
particles,
lucky.
right?
Wait, let's pump the brakes. Wait, let's pump the
Oh my
brakes. No,
God.
let's pump the
Okay.
brakes there. Now, wait a second. It doesn't matter or not whether or not that's surprising from our perspective. If I'm a detective and I walk into a murder scene and I look and I see, okay, well, I've got a muddy footprint on by the window. The window is shattered. I've got an unalived victim who has, a wound to their head or something like that. And I have reports of witnesses who are saying, we saw someone fleeing the scene of the crime and there was a struggle and things like that, I would conclude, well, it's really unlikely all these facts would be here if there was not an unaliver who did this.
This
And
example
if there
doesn't
was an
apply at all.
unaliver, well, no, let me finish. If there was an unaliver who did this, well, like all those things, like that would explain all this data points. But according to you, I can just strut up to the detective and say, oh, yeah? Well, all of this is surprising to whose
No,
perspective?
that's
The
not my
universe
point at
doesn't
all.
care whether or not there's an unaliver here or not. Like, whether or not we're
This is
coming
not
at
my
this
point at all.
from our reference frame, it doesn't matter. But this is your argument.
No, it's
It
not.
doesn't,
Not even a
yeah,
little
it
bit.
is.
Okay, so let me re-explain my argument. You like the detective example you gave, right? You're assuming that the universe is a detective with a motive trying to find something. The universe
No,
created
no.
us with absolutely no motive, and we're just a product
Well,
of the
that's
chemicals
circular,
and the
but that's
force and the
the thing
laws
we're
and the
trying to
laws of
debate. Well,
physics.
wait, you're engaging in question-begging argumentation. The very thing that we're trying to debate is, was there an intentionality behind the cause of the universe? And what I am
100%
saying,
there was not.
okay, but you're asserting that you haven't argued for it, and I've put forth arguments, and you haven't
And I
engaged with my
told you
arguments.
it's
My
because
arguments, no. My argument is that the data we see in the universe is better explained by positing a designer that better explains the data than just saying there is no designer. And the reason it better explains the data is because that data is not wildly unexpected under a designer hypothesis, whereas under a no designer hypothesis, it is widely unexpected. I am using just basic generic reasoning, inference to the best explanation, Bayesian, whatever you want to call it, to make an inference that the data we have is best inferred, is best leads us to a designer. And so you haven't engaged with me. Every time I give you this argument, you just double down and you say, nope, nothing designed us, nope, nothing designed us. Actually explain to me why a no designer argument, wait, let me, explain to me why atheism better explains all of these dials of the universe being set on just the precise right thing that we need to be, they need to be on in order for us to have life. Explain why that is more expected under atheism than under theism. Go ahead and offer that.
Clearly, you don't. I don't. Maybe you don't have the critical thinking to try to understand this. But let me rephrase this one more time for you, because you keep absolutely ignoring what I'm saying and keep saying that we got lucky with the fine-tuned knobs. Let me explain one more time for you, man. Okay, and you better listen this time, because if you keep rambling about how some point that I didn't make, okay, listen. We are lucky from our point of view. Just because we exist,
that doesn't engage my question. What's my argument? Repeat my argument to me.
You're saying that because all these knobs were turned in the specific order, this implies that there is a creator, an intelligent designer of humans. This doesn't.
Why do I think that?
The universe does not. This does not mean there's intelligent.
Why do I think that? What's my argument? What is my argument that this points to a designer?
Because there were specific knobs, all turned at the specific, way, whatever you said. And we're lucky because of that. And the only way you can explain this is that there's a theistic
Nope,
God.
That's not what I said. Nope, nope, you're not paying attention. Listen more closely. I never said that the only explanation is God. Listen very carefully. I'm comparing explanations. We have a set of data before us. Okay, listen. I'm saying we have a set of data before us, and we have two competing explanations that we're comparing. We have two competing hypotheses, okay? Your hypothesis is that there is no intelligence behind the design of the universe. My hypothesis is that there is. And what I'm saying is my hypothesis better explains the facts of the fine-tuning of the universe. That is my explanation. My explanation better explains this.
What makes it fine-tuning? Answer this then. What makes it fine-tuning?
Okay.
Why is it fine-tuning compared to randomness?
Are you asking me like the physical evidence for fine-tuning?
No, I'm saying, why are you using the adjective, or why are you saying it's fine-tuning rather than random? Why is it fine-tuning?
I'm saying that it's fine-tuned because that's a term that comes up in the academic literature and cosmology and astrophysics surrounding this.
Fine-tuning? Fine-tuning for what?
For life. These are fine-tuned for life, in order for us to have life.
Okay, and why life is subjective to us? Why would the universe care if we exist or not?
So if atheism is true, it wouldn't care, which is why fine-tuning is so surprising under your theory. And the fact that it's surprising under your theory but not surprising under mine is exactly what makes my theory the better explanation.
No, just because one favors the idea of religion or the God or designing doesn't make it true. Your argument is flawed because you're just assuming that.
Okay, so I think we need to talk about what makes something evidence.
Can't be random because this is subjective to
I
us.
think we need to talk about what makes something evidence.
Point of view.
You're not tracking. Okay, so what do you think evidence is?
For what? I know what evidence is.
Okay, then give me
theory.
Okay, give me an explanation of what evidence is.
I just told you it's something to prove your idea or theory or whatever your point is.
Prove? So you think evidence has to show something to be proven? Like it's impossible for it to be otherwise?
If your evidence doesn't prove your idea or point, then I don't know what the point of evidence would even be then. I don't know what you're trying to say.
So by proof, because what I'm seeing here is that we're going to have an explanation of just even the concept of evidence, because you're not even able to engage with my argument because you don't understand the concept of best explanation, and that's fine. I don't say the fact. Well, no, let me finish. Let me say this. I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. I say that as I say that. No, because what you're saying isn't connecting with my argument. No, you have a couple of atheist slogans and you're not engaging with my argument. If you yell at me, I'm trying to have a respectful conversation with you. If you yell at me, I'm going to kick you off and I'm going to bring the next person up. Okay. So I want to have a conversation at this point of what constitutes evidence. Okay, what does that mean? Having evidence for a claim does not mean that your claim has been proven, as proven in this mathematical sense of it's impossible for it to be otherwise. A piece of data counts as evidence for a hypothesis if that piece of data raises the probability of a hypothesis. So if I have a hypothesis that I walk into a crime scene, if I'm a detective and I see that there's someone who's been unalived on the ground, okay, so maybe I form a hypothesis. This person has been unalived by another person, a serial unaliver. So I have that hypothesis. Well, if I see that there is a knife in the victim's back, that serves as evidence for my hypothesis because that knife in the back raises the probability of my hypothesis. Are you following me so far?
Yes, I'm following you, and I've responded to this
Okay, so
argument
let's
already.
keep going. Oh no, you haven't even engaged with this argument because this is the first time I'm
explain
presenting
how
this
my-
argument. We're not
Okay,
even.
this time when
No,
I
no,
make
no.
my
We're not.
argument,
I'm not
I'm
even
gonna talk
talking
about
about
what you
God at
said,
this
so
point.
that
I'm
you
talking
don't-
about what evidence is. Nope, I'm not talking about God at this point. I'm trying to get you to understand what evidence is. So
Understand what
why
evidence
is
is, man.
wait no
You're
no wait
wasting your
let's no no
time.
so let's okay so then let's talk about this. No, I have all the time in the world right now. I have plenty of time. Okay, so why is the knife in the back of the victim? Why does that raise the probability of the unaliver hypothesis?
Because you look at the knife and you say this matches the theory.
Okay, but why? Why does it raise the probability?
Because, oh my God, dude, why are we going through this right now? I understand what your point is.
Because you need to understand this, and the fact that you can't answer this shows that
Answer the question, bro.
you in
Use some
order to
common
no listen
sense.
in order to assess the argument that I give. No, let me give you the answer, okay? So the reason the knife in the back of the victim raises the probability of the hypothesis is because I can take that piece of data and I can assess what is the probability of that knife being in the back of the victim under my hypothesis, and I can compare that to the opposite of my hypothesis. So I
Except
might
the
think, okay, I have
detective
that.
example
No,
doesn't
like,
work at all when we're talking about the universe.
I'm not right now. I'm just explaining the concept of evidence. So
Okay.
if you think that the concepts of evidence are going to somehow change when we come to explain talking about hypotheses
it will.
that are related to the universe, we can do that in a second. But I'm just trying to get you to understand what it is evidence means. So if I have a knife in the back of a victim who's been unalived, it is very improbable that that piece of data would come about in the absence of an unaliver, right? Like that's just really improbable, right?
You're right.
Okay, but now if I posit that there's an unaliver, that piece of data of the knife being in the back, that is not as improbable under that hypothesis, right?
Sure.
Okay, and because this is really improbable under the no unaliver hypothesis, and because it's not super improbable under the unaliver hypothesis, that is why that piece of data counts as evidence for the unaliver hypothesis. Are you following me?
And that's where you're wrong.
Where am I wrong? You don't think that, well, you've already agreed the piece of the knife in the back serves as evidence
Are
for
we
the
at the point where
unaliver
we're comparing
hypothesis,
this to
right?
the universe and the conception of the universe? Is this now where we're comparing it? Because listen,
I
man,
haven't
you keep
mentioned the
saying
universe
same
in a
thing.
few minutes. I'm trying to explain to you what evidence is.
We all know what evidence is. We talked
You
about the knife
don't.
in the
You've
back
shown you
and the
don't know,
probability
and
a
that's why I'm
thousand times
walking
now.
you through this.
I think,
Nope,
frankly,
no.
I didn't understand my response to you didn't make sense, and that you didn't like that it didn't make sense. We're going back to the fundamentals of what evidence is, even though this is not productive at all.
Okay. So then, what is the explanation I just gave based on what I just gave with the unaliver situation? Why is the knife evidence?
Because it would be highly unlikely for there not to be an unaliver, like you said.
Okay, because
And you
that
like
piece
that?
of data. Okay, because that piece of data, right, the knife, that's really unlikely to be there if there's no unaliver, right?
Yes. Okay. Can we move on? How does
Okay,
this
no,
apply
no,
to
let's
the
let's,
universe?
let's pause. No, I'm going to hold your hand and walk you through this. So you can kick and scream all you want. I'm not going to jump over to something else. So if you don't like it, you can leave and I can bring somebody else up, but I'm going to hold your hand and walk you through this because you're not going to wiggle out of
Anyone
this.
would be
So
asking
make
for
up your
this.
decision.
Go
No,
ahead.
listen. Listen. Make up your mind right now. You can stay on this live, you can have a conversation with me, and we can go at a slow pace and walk this through, or you can continue to slap the table and stomp your foot and try to change the topic over to something else and go away from this process we're walking through. You can either walk through this with me or you can get off mic. Those are your options. I want to have a conversation with you, but you're being really rude, so you have to make a decision. Make your decision right now. Either hop off or just be patient with me.
I'm in here for a reason, man. Just I'm saying let's pace it up a little bit faster. If it makes it.
No, we're gonna walk through this as slow as it needs to be. Are you okay with that?
Okay, man. Sure. I'm in here either way. So let's go.
Okay, so let's go. So we're gonna take our time. We're gonna be patient. Glad to hear it. Okay, so the knife in the back of the victim, we agreed that's very improbable under a no unaliver, right? I know unaliver is kind of like a weird way to say this, but I'm worried about TikTok restricting my live streams. So we'll say under the no criminal hypothesis, that'll be less obtuse to say semantically. Under the no criminal hypothesis, it's really unlikely that we have the knife in the back. Whereas under a criminal hypothesis, that's not as unlikely. And so the reason that this piece of data counts as evidence for the criminal hypothesis is because of this this difference of how that piece of data works out on both of those hypotheses. Do you follow that?
Sure. Yeah, I said yes 1,000 times.
Okay. Okay, so this is how evidence works, not just with criminals, but with things in general. So in the natural sciences, in history, in forensic cases, this is how evidence works. If I'm looking at something historically and I'm saying, okay, I have these documents, and I have this piece of archaeological evidence, or data. I will take that data and I'll say, okay, this is really probable under this hypothesis. This piece of data is really improbable under this other hypothesis. And so because of that, this will raise the probability of hypothesis A. Okay, and this goes across a variety of fields, right? You still with me?
Yes. Yeah. With an agenda. This is true.
Okay. Okay. No, just in general, this is what evidence is. This is just what evidence is.
When you're trying to prove something, you need an agenda.
I mean, if you're trying to argue for something, then you are trying to argue for something. Like you seem to be using agenda in a pejorative way. Is that what you're doing?
In every argument, you need an agenda and something to prove. And so if your goal is to prove something, you need to have an agenda. So yes, you're right. Everything you're explaining is true when it comes to real life scenarios.
Okay, so I'm confused in your use of real life scenarios. Okay, but let's just go on, right? So just as in the knife in the back case, I have a piece of data, and I'm thinking about explanations for that piece of data. So now I look at the universe, and when I look at the universe, one of the pieces of data I have is that there's all these dials that are set in this very specific knife and this very specific range of life permitting. It seems almost as if one of the physicists, I think it's Paul Davy, says it almost seems as if a super intellect has monkeyed with physics. That's the way he talks about it. But I'll set that aside. What we see is that there's all these dials, and these dials are set precisely in a range that allows for life. So I have that piece of data, and now I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did with the knife in the back of the person hypothesis. That piece of data, I'm going to say, okay, what are the hypotheses on the table, right? I'm going to say, okay, well, one hypothesis is that there's no intelligence behind the universe. Well, if there's no intelligence behind the universe, if nothing's tinkering with these dials, it sure is surprising that all these dials would come up in this life permitting range. It's extremely improbable. It's even more improbable than the knife in the back of the victim. Okay, so that piece of data, right? So I said there's this piece of data. I haven't claimed life is special. I haven't claimed anything about that. I'm just saying I have this chunk of data, and I'm saying that chunk of data sure is really unlikely under no designer. And I'm saying, okay, well, how does that chunk of data work if there's a designer? Where if there's a designer who designed the universe, it isn't very surprising that I would find all these dials set in just the right way for life to occur. And so by the criteria of evidence that me and you, we walked through it together, because this piece of data is really surprising under the no designer hypothesis, and because it's not really surprising under the designer hypothesis, that means this piece of data constitutes as evidence for the designer. At no point did I assume life is special. At no point did I, assume the conclusion that I was trying to solve. I took a piece of data and I created hypotheses, and I said, okay, which one of these explains the other one better? So now what you need to do to make an argument against this is you need to show why the no designer hypothesis is a better explanation for this set of facts that I have. So go ahead and try to do that.
Okay, man. So the assumption that there has to be some kind of designer is completely
When did I assume that?
Oh
When did I
no!
say there
Yeah.
has to
Oh,
be some
sorry,
type of
sorry,
designer?
sorry. There had to be. Oh, no, no. It's more likely that there's a designer. It doesn't not necessarily
Wait,
make any
I didn't
sense
assume
at
that.
all.
When did I assume
What was
that?
your point? What do you? Is there a designer? Is there most likely a designer? What's
I think
the?
there is most likely a designer. How did I
Okay,
argue
so
for that?
that's what I said. That's what I said. You said that there's most likely a designer, and that idea
Oh,
doesn't
wait, let's bump it
have
back.
to fit in at
I
all.
technically said that I have evidence for that designer. Specifically, the way I argued for that is I said I had a piece of data, and that data constitutes evidence for the designer. That's a specific way I phrased it.
Okay, okay. And to us as humans, this idea sounds better that there is a designer behind it. That's why when you're going in, you have an agenda, and you want to hear, you like the idea that there's a designer, rather that
No, no,
there's
no.
complete
When in my
randomness
argument
and
did I
there's
say
only
I like this
information.
idea, therefore there's a designer?
Well,
You're not
humans in
engaging with my
general.
argument.
Well, why is it special that humans exist at all? Why does the tune?
I never
Why do
claimed it was special.
the why would there have to be a designer in period?
I
Designer
never
to
said there
what?
has to be one. I said that there's a piece of data which is better
Why
explained
is there
by a
most likely a
designer.
designer? What's the designer's agenda?
I don't have to know the designer's agenda. No, based on the
What does the
effects that
designer
I see
do?
on the
What
world.
does the
Let me
designer?
say, let me pause. Yeah, so based on the effects I see in the world, it seems like the designer's agenda is for the universe to be life permitting. And the reason I say that is because all these dials are precisely set in such a way to allow for
And what is
life.
life permitting? What is the things that the knobs turn that make the life permitting?
Yeah, so you asked me what life permitting means. It means life is able to recur in the
Why
universe.
can't this happen in pure randomness?
I didn't say it couldn't happen. I said it's less likely to happen. It's improbable for it to happen.
But don't we want to go with other modern sciences that prove that? So what do you
There's
attach
nothing in
onto
modern
this
science.
God?
Wait, there's nothing in modern science that proves the universe was here by chance. There's nothing in modern science that proves that. And I've
Okay, so
repeatedly
let me
asked
get
you
this
to
right.
make an argument for why your explanation better explains the set of data, and you haven't, and I
Why does your
have.
text in the background say God exists if your whole point is, well, there's a chance there might be a designer? I don't really fully follow through with this because you should either
So
change the text in your background because
I
this is
didn't
not
argue
what you
there's a
believe.
chance. No, I think God exists, and the reason I think God exists is because I think
Well,
there's
you just
evidence
said
for
it's
God's
most
existence.
likely. You're saying the data points align with there being most likely a God. Isn't that what you
Yes,
just
and
said?
that's yes. I think that God
And you
exists.
said
Yes, I
that
think the
this
data
could
point
happen in randomness, right?
on what happens. Yeah, so but when we're looking at something like this, we can have two explanations, and the same piece of data is possible under both explanations. That does not mean that both those explanations are equal when it comes to explanatory
Why not?
virtues, because it may be more probable under one explanation than the other. So, for instance, right now, so let's take the knife in the back of the victim. It's possible that there was a knife in the back of a victim in which there was no criminal involved. That's possible. It could
This,
somehow
so,
occur,
like I
but that
said, this
doesn't
does
mean.
not apply to the universe because why the
Why
universe
not?
didn't go
This is just
in.
special pleading. This is just special pleading. No, so you've set up, what you've tried to set up is you're trying to say that if I have one piece of data and that data is possible under two explanations, that somehow that piece of data, like that's all that matters is that it's possible under both. And what I'm saying is it doesn't matter if you can come up with other explanations. What
Okay.
matters is if you can come up with better explanations that excel in explanatory virtues such as explanatory scope, explanatory power, parsimony, ad hocness, things like that. And so you haven't even engaged with this.
Yeah. Okay. So, what's stopping me from saying the actual creator of this universe was the Mars creator? This creator, this designer, only wanted to make Mars, right? And everything
Okay,
else is just a consequence of wanting to make Mars. And this
so then
designer purposely made the universe so that Mars would be exactly the way it is, and that their whole agenda was to be Mars. So, what's stopping me from making that point and saying, well, there's Mars, and there's all these data points aligned with Mars existing. So, why can't there be a Mars designer?
Okay, so I'm a little confused on how that's going to cut back against my argument because at that point you're conceding
That's
that there
exactly
is a
what you're saying.
designer.
You're
So at
saying
that
just
point
because life exists.
we're both agreeing there's a designer, and then we're just changing what we think his goals are, his
So
or her
what?
goals or its goals are. So are you willing to concede that there's a designer?
Well, I'm saying what's stopping me from saying your designer is equal to my Mars designer? What's the difference?
Okay, so we both would then at that point be agreeing that there's a designer, right?
Well, yes, but then there would be a 50-50. There might be a Mars designer. There might be a human designer. Which
But
one is it?
those aren't mutually exclusive. So the problem is, so let me address one of the problems in your
Yes, they
argument
have to
here.
be.
So no. So one of the problems in your argument here is that in order for something like Mars to occur, something like that, there doesn't seem to have to be this type of life permitting values that we see in the fine tuning. Like the requirements to get a chunk of rock or something like that floating in space. That is not as constrained. That is not as difficult of a thing to get to come about as something like fine tuning. So let me give an example. So if you and I are playing a game of poker, and I get a royal flush 10 times in a row, you're gonna think I'm cheating. No, wait, let's say, no, wait, let me finish. If we're playing poker and you just get a random trash, hand, I'm not gonna think you're cheating. And the reason is because my hand is a game-winning hand, and it's extraordinarily more improbable than the hand that you're getting, which doesn't do anything. And so when I look at the designer hypothesis, what I'm seeing is like, well, it seems like the universe in question is it's like getting the 10 royal flushes. Now you could say, okay, well, maybe the designer also really wanted Mars to be in a specific way. Okay, cool. Maybe the designer wanted Mars to be in a specific way. Nothing about my theory contests with that. So I'm happy to grant that. And then I'm going to point out that we're still at that point affirming a designer. So welcome to theism.
No, I'm not theist at all. You're completely using my point against me. I'm saying there has to be one.
Yeah, you're right. I am using your point against you. That's how arguments work.
Let me get this straight. Are you a Christian God? Do you believe in the Christian God, or what kind of God?
I'm a Christian. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
Okay. Can I pull this back into the Bible? Can I use the Bible?
No, you can't. You're not going to change the subject. That's not the topic of the debate. Because you found that you can't get out of this argument.
Yes, I can.
And now you want to turn it to something else. No.
I can debate the semantics of what we're talking right now. Okay, but I just wanted to say
so engage with me,
because that's an obvious there's a lot of contradictions in the Bible, and that would easily.
Okay, listen. We can talk about the Bible later. I'm not talking about the Bible right now. I'm talking about God's existence, and the fact that you're trying to bring that up shows you can't argue this point. I want to point out to the audience, he wouldn't be trying to pull up issues in the Bible, which I have never referenced throughout our argument. He would not need to be pulling that up. He would not need to be pulling that up if he could argue his point philosophically.
Dude, why are you putting words in my mouth? This is not true. Anyways, let's talk.
You just brought up the Bible.
Okay. Let's talk at the issue.
Okay.
Okay. Like the example you give in poker. Why is the good ending the ending where there's a creator, and why is why does this not clash with the Mars creator? Because what if the Mars creator just wanted to make Mars, and humans are just a byproduct of making Mars, and that he doesn't really care about humans?
I don't understand. So could you try to make that a little bit more coherent? And I'm not trying to say that to be rude. The first couple sentences you said there, I just didn't follow. Like I'm not quite sure what your argument is. So could you take a second, maybe take 30 seconds, and I will drink my water, and then I'll scroll through the chat, and you can take your thoughts and formalize them a bit better and present them as an argument. Just take like 30 seconds. Just think about it.
You gave the explanation, right, of saying, say there's a poker hand, and I get this unbelievable royal flush, and that it would be more probable to assume that the royal flush was given to me on purpose rather than it being pure luck. But you're assuming that the royal flush is a good thing, and that this adds.
No, I don't. No, I don't. When did I say anything? If I'm not the one getting the royal flushes, it's a bad thing for me. I never said anything about being good or bad.
There's so many assumptions that have to be made when you're giving this point, because you have to assume that it's not all random, and that's all. You have to think that there's always a subject.
When did I assume that? No, we're trying to figure out whether or not it's random, and then we're looking at the data points and saying which hypothesis is better at this.
This doesn't necessarily You're right that I'm a little stumped on how to fight this, because this is such a talked about point, but it fundamentally doesn't necessarily make sense. But I'm going to
so can I ask you a few questions?
For the sake of the live stream, I'm going to go ahead and say there is some kind of intellectual designer, right? Okay. Now, I want to hear you try to apply this to Christianity and why Christianity makes sense.
No, because that's not my topic of the live today. I have lives where I'll talk about Christianity, but that's not the topic of my live today.
There's some kind of a designer, whether if it's artificial intelligence that made us, or if it's like Hinduism that made us. Are you going to kick me out of the live stream as soon as I say I'm Hindu and I believe in an intellectual designer?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to...
No, if you're Muslim or Hindu or deist, that's completely fine. I'm not that. And if the topic of the live was something different, we could talk about that. Do it now.
I'm going to cave in right? For the sake
Okay.
of this argument, and say that I think we're all in a computer. We're artificially
Okay.
generated by us by a computer. Okay, we're a
Okay.
simulation. Okay,
Where did that computer come from?
from a different civilization or a different species,
Okay,
unknown,
so our universe was designed.
unknown, and we can't comprehend it at all. How about that?
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. So
that's what,
we
like I
both
said.
agree that the universe was designed by an intelligent agent.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna cave in.
Okay, cool. So okay,
You better
so
not
do
pick
you
me now
actually
because I
hold
have a
that, or are
lot
you
of
just
talking
granting it for
points.
argument?
What'd you say?
Okay. So then at this point, we both agree that the universe is designed.
Well,
Now, I did want to ask you something. Well, so I did want to ask you something before we go down this line of thought. So, have you ever read any academic literature surrounding this topic?
yes.
I'm not talking a Reddit post. I'm not talking a YouTube video by
Well, you're the
atheist engineer
Redditor,
or
so I'm
whatever his name
assuming I'm
is.
like this Redditor that like scrolls Reddit all day. I'm more of my time is spent through looking at each individual religion and debunking them because that
Okay,
makes more
okay. So
sense.
so you have read academic works by modern philosophers of religion who have developed this argument. Is that what you're telling me?
Developed what argument?
The argument that I just gave.
You're because what you're saying is agnostic. You're agnostic if you're fully following through with what you're saying. Because do you know what it
Wait,
means to
what?
be
I'm just
agnostic?
asking you if you've read any academic material on the
Yes,
topic we're
dude. I
discussing.
told you, like I said, I study religion and I debunk them.
I'm not
Obviously,
asking
you
you if
haven't
you've
said.
studied religion. I'm asking if you've
Well,
studied
you're trying to
arguments
mimic
in
and make
natural
me trying to look
theology.
dumb in front of all your viewers, right? We've
I don't need to
established
do
this point,
that.
dude.
I
Yes,
don't need to
yes,
make
you
any
are. That's
effort
what you're
into
trying to
doing
do.
that. I
Yes,
don't need
man.
to make any effort into doing
I
that.
said yes
I'm
multiple times.
not.
Continue your point.
Okay, so you have read academic literature on arguments for the existence of God.
Yeah.
Okay, so could you give me some example of
Well,
and if you, I'm not asking you to give me, I'm not going to be super pedantic if you can't give me a specific paper title, but can you give me an author? Can you give me some type of contemporary philosopher of religion whose work you've read on this specific argument that we've been talking about?
do you know what a hadith is?
Yeah, I know what a hadith is.
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time looking at hadiths and saying, well, this doesn't make
That's
sense.
not the question. That's not the
Well,
question.
that's a philosopher that's arguing for the existence of Allah.
I keep asking you, have you read any academic literature on the specific
That's an
argument for
academic
God that we've been
literature.
talking about?
I
No,
just
it isn't.
answered
A
the question.
hadith
Yes.
that's not the
What is
question.
a
Okay,
hadith, bro?
so what I'm getting from this is that because here's the thing, you said a while ago that you feel stumped and you don't know how to respond to this. And the
No,
point
but
I'm
that was a
making
different
here is
argument. That was a different argument.
the reason you feel stumped and you don't know how to respond to it is because you want to spend all this time trying to debunk religions when you're making clear that you have not done any type of research into
Well,
the
no, I don't
academic literature
necessarily
surrounding
disagree
this
with that.
topic.
No. I slightly agreed with you at the beginning because I'm agnostic, right? And I think there could be some kind of intelligent designer, but it's not specific to humans, or it could be. Okay, that's why I couldn't exactly, because I kind of follow that kind of theory. Where I disagree with most God exists people, is that it doesn't follow any religion that is popular in modern civilization. And I spend a lot of my time reading about Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and I agree that they're all, for the most part, they don't follow they don't have any sense. They don't work with what we have, or they don't work with
Okay,
the
so
curriculum.
we
They
can
won't.
okay, so then so it seems like you're on board and you're fine with then saying that there is some type of intelligence behind the universe, some intelligent
Yeah,
cause of the universe. Okay, so let's just start there and go there. Okay, right? Are you familiar with Occam's razor?
Occam's eraser,
Occam's razor, like
razor.
a
No,
razor
no,
you'd
no, no,
shave
no,
with.
no,
Okay,
no.
so Occam's razor is a philosophical principle that's used in many areas of study, and the general idea is that we should not multiply causes without necessity. And that sounds a little wordy, so let me explain what I mean by that. So the idea behind Occam's razor is if I have a piece of data, and let's go back to the knife in the back of the victim. I can explain that piece of data by positing just one criminal. I shouldn't multiply causes beyond necessity. I shouldn't say, well, there's 10 criminals who were involved with that. Like, maybe there were, but if I can explain that data just as well with one criminal, like, I shouldn't, like, just keep postulating criminals. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then what I'm going to say is if I have the universe and it can be it can be explained by postulating this one cause, which is a designer. Occam's razor, which should say I shouldn't just keep on multiplying other designers afterwards after that. So I should shave away those other designers that you're trying to posit in this other, kind of super civilization, whatever. I say, well, I don't need those, and I'm just at that point you're positing extra causes beyond necessity. And so this kind of general principle or virtue that we use in theory evaluation would cut against that.
That there's only one God and there can't be other designers?
Or more specifically, that if we're talking about just explaining the design of the universe, and we say, okay, we recognize that this is best explained by a designer, at that point, to say, okay, well, maybe it's all these other, maybe that designer was designed by another designer, designed by another. It's saying all of that. I want to say, at that point, you're just multiplying causes past necessity. My screen just messed up. Whoops. 1 second. There we go. Can you hear me?
Are you going to tie this into religion? Into Christianity?
Okay, there we go. So I had a TikTok popped up asking me to verify something. Okay, so at that point, right? At this point, then we shouldn't just be positing all these other designers. At this point, we say we have one designer. He's designed the universe. So we're on board with that.
Why doesn't this work?
Oh no, yeah. We can call it an it. We can call it he, she, whatever. I don't care about gendering this designer. We're just saying there's some type of intelligence behind the universe.
I'm going to defend the world being a simulation then. So this works in the same simulation.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Okay. So was this simulation designed? Okay, and that computer was designed by something else, right?
Beyond our comprehension, but sure.
Okay, so then I'm just going to say you're multiplying causes past necessity at that point.
Why? If it's made by a single computer, that can explain everything.
Okay, so is this computer designed by something? Is this computer designed by something?
Everything beyond the computer that made us is beyond our comprehension, like the other dimensions in this
Okay,
universe.
cool. It's okay. I'm just asking, did something design the computer?
I can't explain something I can't comprehend, can I?
I'm not asking you to explain it. I'm asking about an aspect of your theory. You're presenting this as a model. You're presenting this as an alternative hypothesis.
I couldn't tell you the answer to my question because in the simulation, whatever is the origin of that world or being is beyond my comprehension. So to tell you that.
Okay, so is the computer intelligent? Is it intelligent? Does it have intentionality? Sure. Okay, yeah, so then at that point, we're just talking about the same thing, but you're just calling it a computer. Cool. So we're both talking about some cause that created the universe. It's intelligent. It had intentionality. It created the universe. You're calling it a computer. I might call it God, but we're talking about the same thing. You're just coming up with a different name to try to make it sound exotic. Okay, cool. We're talking about the same thing at this point.
Well, I'm trying to, because you're trying to explain there has to be an origin of the origin. No, it's just a computer, and whatever's operating or whatever it could be is beyond our comprehension. So that.
Okay, but so computers are usually things that are designed, right? So computers run programs.
No, I mean not in the external universe that creates us. It could be anything.
Okay, so but now all you're doing. Wait, let's pause here. So you're telling me this computer and your model it isn't designed by an external designer.
I could have never known. No one can know. No one can
okay, but but here's the thing. If it isn't, if you say it's not designed by an external designer, then you're just kicking the can up the road, and I'm actually going to just run the same whole argument again. I'm going to say, listen, if this computer is not designed to make a simulation such as this, and it's just, it just happened to be chance or randomness that it made a simulation like this, then we're back to where we started. And I'm just going to say it sure is unlikely.
No, you're putting words in my. I never said it's chance that made this computer. I'm saying whatever the reason this computer made the universe or how it was created is completely beyond our comprehension. Like we can't understand the hypercube, we can't understand other dimensions, and we can't understand the computer, why it's doing it. All we understand that it is doing it, okay?
Okay, but so if we have the computer and the computer has created this universe, we have two options logically. The computer created the universe in this way intentionally, right? Like it intentionally designed the universe to be life permitting, or it didn't intentionally do that. Those are two logically exhaustive options, right? Now you can say, oh, I can't possibly know which one. Okay, you can say that all you want, but I'm saying those are your logically exhaustive options. Option one, if you say that it didn't if you didn't do all this intentionally, then we're back to where we started, and I'm going to say, well, if this all isn't all intentional, if the computer when it created us, it didn't have. No, let me finish this line of thought. Whoa, chill. Wait, let me finish. If you say that when the computer, created this universe, it created this simulation or whatever, if you're saying that computer doing that, it wasn't intentionality on the part of the computer, it wasn't, it wasn't being intelligent and trying to create a life from in a universe, then at that point, we're back to where this started, and I'm going to run the same argument that got us to here.
No,
Or you can say, no, this
absolutely
computer is
not. Can I stop you
intelligent.
here
You can
and
say this
tell you
computer
my
is
point?
intelligent and it's engaging in intentional design, in which case I'm going to say we're just talking about God, but you're calling it a computer. So no matter which of these two logically exhaustive options you go with, I'm still going to be fine in this argument.
No, dude. So here's why you're still putting words in my mouth. This computer, all I said is that it made it so that it fine-tune all the things so that life could exist on in a single cell. Back to where evolution started. They made it so they turned all the knobs, the periodic tables laid out exactly how it should be in the correct order, so that carbon, oxygen can work together, make a single cell. Okay, and that's where it stops. Okay, because that's all I'm proving. That's how you make life. Right?
Okay, but let's pause. So could the computer have done things differently?
If it wanted to.
Okay, so then there's all these different ways the computer could have done things, and it did things this way. What's the best explanation for the universe doing things this way? Is it that it was designed to do things this way, or is it just that it's chance that it came about this way?
We can't understand. We wouldn't know. All I know is that it created.
Well, no, we can know, because I'm going to run the exact same argument, and I'm going to say, well, if the computer was designed to do things this way, this is not terribly surprising that we should find ourselves in a finely tuned universe. And so this piece of data of the universe the computer creating us in this way, that's not terribly surprising.
I can put in evolution. The single cell organism evolved into humans today, and before humans, it was primates, and before primates,
I don't need to argue about evolution. I haven't brought evolution up. I'm talking about the laws that govern the universe.
That's where the fine tuning starts and ends. That's where it should.
No. So whether or not this evolution, So you're trying to pivot to the origin of biological life, and that's not going to help you here, because all the things that I'm talking about are things outside of the biological, parameters of which evolution occurs.
Made life. Can we move on?
Do I know?
We're
okay. So
that this
okay.
Intelligence made life.
Okay.
And that it could have evolved in a different way. Whether it was instead of oxygen, it could have been iron, right? Like
so
the materials, it doesn't matter if it was intentionally in this certain way. All they wanted to do is make life, so they organize or they put things so that it can evolve in this certain direction. It doesn't necessarily have to be the way carbon and oxygen.
So you just described theistic evolution. So there are theistic evolutionists who think that God creates life through the process of evolution. That seems like what you just described. No, many Christians believe that. I know a lot of Christians who believe that. Yes.
Some Christians believe that life started at one cell.
Many Christians do. Many Christians think that the kind of generic evolutionary process you get in evolutionary biology, they think that's how God created. Are you a Christian?
No, by all means.
Do you read any Christian theology? Have you ever read any academic Christian theology?
I have never spoken to a Christian that believes that life started with one cell.
Okay, no, I'm not asking. Have you read any academic work in Christian theology?
Not.
Yes or no? Have you read any? Okay.
No.
So listen to me. Okay, let's listen. I'm finishing up a doctorate in Christian theology. Okay, don't try to tell me what Christians believe and don't believe. I know this better than you. I'm not trying to be rude about this, but how are you, someone who just admitted you've never read any Christian theological works, how are you going to sit here and tell me someone who is really close to being a certified expert in Christian theology? How are you going to sit here and try to tell me what Christians believe? Are you kidding me?
Flying fuck, bro. Okay, let's keep debating this. Okay?
You're the one who brought this up. No, you're the one who brought this up. You're the one who said Christians don't believe this.
Because I've never, through my entire 18 years of living, I've never once heard a Christian believe in modern science and evolution and archaeology like you do. Okay.
Well, let's pause.
Frankly,
and the reason for what you just said, you just admitted you've never actually studied this topic. That's what you just admitted.
No, all I admitted is I've never met someone that's arguing the same thing you've argued.
No. Have you ever heard someone who argued this? Have you ever read anything? Have you ever read anything of people who would argue this?
No, dude. Like I said, all I ever.
So what you just admitted? No, wait. So you just admitted you've never done any actual research on the position you're attacking. That's what you just admitted. Because this position.
The Bible says the earth was
pull up your computer. No, you have a computer in front of you, right?
I'm in my car.
Okay. Are you driving?
No, I'm parked, bro. What?
Okay, good. I was about to say, don't drive and do this. Like, we can have this conversation another time. Okay. So no. So wait. So pull up your phone. And you can it'll pause the live if you minimize TikTok. That's fine. I'll wait. Pull up your phone and type in the words theistic evolution into your Google search bar.
How about you
We're
explain it to
all
me
gonna
so
we're
that
all gonna
I
listen.
can
We're all gonna
understand?
listen. We're all gonna watch Small Demo do academic
Bro,
research, or
what the
not even.
fuck?
We're just gonna watch him do the basic research of the
Dude,
worldview that he says he spent
how
all this
about
time
you
reading
explain
about.
your
We're
point
going to
rather than
watch him do
stalling? Just
research for
explain what
this.
you're saying. This is embarrassing, man. Just
Yeah,
explain what your point is. The
I,
fact
I
that I
already
haven't
explained it.
heard
I said that
of
the idea that you just described. No, because I'm pointing out that you're being intellectually dishonest. You're getting onto my live. You said you're 18 years old. So you're an 18-year-old kid who's just admitted he's never done any research into the topic that he's trying to attack.
not
You're getting over
no.
here and you're showing you're not
That's
familiar with the
not
arguments that I'm
true.
presenting. You're not
That's not
familiar with my
true.
position.
That's not
And
I did
despite
not
all
say
this, you're
this,
getting on
dude.
here, you're being
You're
cocky,
putting
you're
words in
being
my
rude,
mouth.
you're being arrogant instead of just having a conversation with me. You didn't say it explicitly, but the fact that you said you've never heard of this idea before shows that you're actually not trying to accurately represent the people
Because
you're engaging
is it
with.
unfair for me that all I've seen across my whole life is people arguing the Bible and what the Bible says and not something that you're saying? I'm glad to hear
No,
what you're saying about your offshoot of Christianity, and I want to talk about
this
it. So
isn't an
maybe you
offshoot of
go on Google
Christianity.
and search it rather than telling me your talking points. I don't
No, no,
understand why you
listen.
can't sit here and tell me what
I will.
what's
I've
going
already
on in the
told you. I've
timeline of
already.
the Christianity you believe in. Because you're agreeing
Okay,
that
yeah, I'm
evolution
happy to
exists
talk about
and it
that.
started at one cell and that life evolved from one cell. So please, man, instead of fucking making me go research whatever the hell you want me to research, explain to me, because not once in my 18 years of living and the thousands of Christians I've argued in real life and on TikTok combined, okay? I've never
Okay,
once
but
heard someone bring this point. So please don't put
okay,
me
so but
bullshit
I,
when I'm being
no, no,
unhonest with you, because all I've
but
done
you
is
are
read is
being honest,
research the
honest. No, no,
Quran,
no.
the Torah, and the Bible, and no, I've
Okay,
never
but let's
once heard
pause there.
someone
No, no,
argue what
no.
you're
Let's
saying.
pause there.
So
No, no, no,
please, can you
no, no.
stop with
Listen.
the ad hominem attacks, calling me stupid or
First off, stop
dishonest?
yelling. Stop
Dude,
yelling.
because you're assuming that I'm saying all these
Stop.
things or
I'm
lying
gonna
about what
mute
I'm saying.
you. I'm gonna mute you, and we're
I
gonna
stopped
chill out
talking.
here
Go
for a
ahead, man.
second. Okay. Take it. We're gonna take 10 deep breaths, me and you together. Okay.
Bro, you're just kind of. I'm
No, no, dude, you're
joking.
yelling into your
It
microphone. You're
sounds like I'm
yelling
yelling.
into
It
your
sounds like I
microphone.
promise you I'm calm. I'm good, man.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, tell it. So, like, I'm gonna do the same thing because I
I'm
get
not
worked
gonna
up in
do
these
it, dude. This is
conversations too.
corny. This is
No,
not.
but hey, listen. If you can't do this, I'm gonna do it. Whether or not you do it is fine. I'm gonna take 10 seconds,
Okay,
and
dude.
then if
Go
you don't
for
want to
it.
do it, that's fine. Then I'm gonna take 10 seconds. I'm gonna do it. I invite you to do it as well, and then we'll just let the mic be silent for
I'm
about
good,
10
man.
seconds,
My
okay? And we
temper
can
is
take this
fine.
time to both chill out. Well, you were yelling at me a while ago, and you were
Again,
cursing
like
at me, and so
my
I don't think
mic is
that's the
in my
case. So I'm
the
just gonna.
mic is
So
close
let's
to my
just.
mouth.
Okay.
So
Okay, that's fine. Cool. So let's just take 10 seconds, and then we'll just sit here, and I'll take a drink of water, and we'll chill.
okay, while you're drinking, I'd like to say that the host has stalled
Nope, we're taking 10
explaining
seconds.
several.
Nope, we're taking 10
Okay,
seconds, bro. We're just chilling
okay,
out. We're
okay,
calming down. We're turning off your microphone. Nope, we're chilling out. We're going to continue the conversation in a second. We're just chilling out. We're gonna sit here and be quiet for 10 seconds, and we're gonna cool. And neither one of us is gonna make a point in that 10 seconds. And then we're gonna continue the conversation. And if you try to talk in this 10 seconds, I'm gonna boot you off because it seems like this should just be a chill thing. We can just sit here and vibe, right? So here we go. I'm gonna count to 10, and then I'll tell you when it's over. Okay? We're just gonna take a big chill pill. Okay, cool. 10 seconds was over. I don't know about you. I'm feeling good. So let's continue the conversation. So it seems like you were wanting me then to articulate my ideas. So I want to conclude the point that we were talking about by saying, listen, the reason I was pointing out. So here's what frustrates me. I'll tell you what frustrates me, okay? I have people who they're very antagonistic against my faith, and I have no problem with I have no problem with people not being Christian. I like to having these type of dialogues, but sometimes I have people who they get up and they try to have these arguments with me, and they are rude, and they are very cocky, and they are so sure that I'm an idiot for making these type of arguments. They're so sure my argument doesn't work, and then as we engage in this dialogue, what they show me is that this position they're attacking, they have not done the due diligence of reading the people they're critiquing. Now, and you could try to point this back at me, but I've read and I've listened to atheist scholars. I've had to. I've had graduate classes on theistic arguments for God, and in those, they made us read people like Graham Oppie, all right? Or I've watched debates where people like, I forget his name, first name, Linsford, and his debate with Lowe. I've engaged with people who disagree with me, people on the top level, not just, I don't just say this because, oh, I've engaged with some people on, TikTok atheists. I have listened to what people on the opposing side of my arguments say. Have I read every single thing out there? No, of course not. Like I haven't scratched the surface. There's a huge amount of literature, but I have tried to look at the top level of people who are having these conversations with each other. I'm saying, okay, what are they saying? And it frustrates me. And the reason I do this is because I'm calling you out by saying you have not done that same thing. You've read maybe the Bible, or you've talked to other lay Christians, maybe you've read the Quran, but you have not said, okay, let me find the smartest atheist and the smartest Christians, and let me see what their dialogue with each other looks like.
You know why I haven't done this?
And that's why. Why?
Because frankly, I'm willing to go out and say, at least in Los Angeles where I live, 95% of the Christians don't believe single life evolution or single cell evolution.
Okay, but listen, are you concerned about truth? Wait, are you concerned about truth?
Yeah.
Okay, so then for yourself, not for them, for yourself. Okay, but so for yourself, if you're concerned about knowing the truth, you should want to test your ideas against the people who are going to best be able to attack it, right? Like if I'm creating an argument
about evolution in the last 5 minutes, so.
Yeah, you're right. I haven't, because that's a side thing. I'm trying to talk with you about something that I think is actually more important. I'm trying to teach you how to be a critical thinker and how to be an honest thinker about these things.
Frankly, the only thing you got me on was I was being slightly disrespectful because I was getting frustrated that you're stalling this hard. I'm not.
Listen again, dude.
When I joined,
yeah, no, but listen, no, but you keep on.
That make them, move through phases of their lives, and I like how Christianity helps some people. But I'm here to talk
okay, cool.
about
Yeah, listen, I'm happy to talk about that. I really am. But here's the thing. I'm gonna briefly hold your feet to the fire on this, because to me, I think no matter what arguments I give you in the next hour or however long we chat, I think whatever arguments I give you, those probably aren't gonna be enough to do it for you. I hope so. Maybe I'm wrong.
No,
but
there's nothing but listen, evidence for God. I'm gonna be 100%
okay, yeah.
I want God to exist, but
yeah.
It doesn't exist.
Okay, but here's the thing. So you say you want evidence for God, and what I'm pointing out. Okay, yeah, cool. Listen, what I'm pointing out is if you really want evidence for God, then what you should be doing is you should be looking at the people who are experts on these areas. So for instance, if I said to you, I don't see any evidence for evolution, and I want there to be evidence for evolution, and then I told you I've been looking for evidence for evolution, and then you talk with me and you found out I've never read any textbook, I've never read any work by any evolutionary biologist, and the only people I've ever talked to, if I told you that, you would think.
You're telling me instead of debating me, you're saying go search up this random source, go search up this random philosopher. Watch videos
listen.
Instead of debating me. I have my facts about evolution, and I'm waiting for your talking points about this, frankly, and you have still yet to talk about Christianity.
Okay, what am I talking? Yeah, you're right. I haven't, because I'm trying to talk about something more foundational.
Or better researchers that talk about evolution and Christianity. But I'm waiting for you to talk about it yourself, because you seem so educated.
Okay,
about
but
it,
wait.
So far,
Okay. Yeah, and I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to do that. But wait, listen. I'm trying to communicate something more important here. You trying to find the people that I'm saying you should research. TikTok's not the place you should be looking for this, man. I come here because I'm gonna be honest.
TikTok for this, bro.
Okay, so after we get done talking, what? Okay, but YouTube's not the place to go for this, man.
Yes,
going on YouTube and listen. Okay.
Video about religion.
You can, but when you go onto YouTube, are you listening to Christian scientists or Christian philosophers, or are you just going and finding atheists who say this stuff, or are you just finding some random pastor?
I watch debates. I hear both.
Okay, can you give me some example of the debates you've listened to?
And I've seen a lot of debates where the Christians argue for the Bible in the 6,000 years, Earth being 6,000 years old.
That's not me. Yeah. But what I'm trying to get you.
Talk about you and what you believe.
Yeah, I'll talk about it with you. I'm just trying to get you to understand what you've been doing. So no matter how this conversation goes, if you're sincere about wanting to find evidence for God, your research method is garbage and you need to change that up. And I can give you suggestions of how to go about researching these topics at more in depth. I can recommend you people who ways for you to see the debate on the top level on both sides. And what I'm just trying to communicate to you is that's what you need to be doing. Not just talking to random people on the internet. So with that said, I'm fine to put that topic aside and then continue with the stuff you want to talk about. At this point, I'm down to do that if you want.
Okay, well, I mean, this is a debate.
Okay.
So can you talk about how single life?
This is a conversation. This is a conversation. Like, there's no time control here. We don't have a moderator. We're just talking. And that's
I know.
Yeah, so the idea that you talked about. So there are many Christians, and this is even pre-Darwin, who think that God, like, the idea that the Earth was created over a 6,000 year period, and there are the idea that the Earth is 6,000 years old and was created over 6 literal days, that is a position that comes from a handful of influential thinkers in Christian history. It is not representative of the entirety of Judeo thought or of Christian thought. It is just a stream. It's become prominent in America. But even before Darwin was around, there were early church writers who were talking about God creating slowly, or God creating over a period of time, or things along those lines. So this idea, what I'm just pointing out here, is the idea that God, that some intelligence kind of sets things up in the universe, so that they have these laws, and he sets up the first primeval life, and he sets things up in a way so it will evolve to life. And so he kind of tinkers with this thing and then lets it spin in this kind of way that he's wants it to go. That is a view that many Christians hold to, and that is completely consistent with Christianity. And so that's just what I was making the point with there. Is something like that, that's theistic evolution. So that's something that's not against Christianity. So if we're okay on that point, we can then move on to talking about why I think. Okay, you want to stay on that point? Okay, cool.
So why are you picking and choosing what's true in the Bible and what isn't? What's the purpose of the Bible if it's so up to your own beliefs and what you think? Because again, why is there a Bible if everyone's taking it out of context?
Okay, well, so let's pause.
The world was made in 6,000 years.
Okay, so can you give me a Bible verse where it says God made the earth 6,000 years ago, or something like that? Can you give me a Bible verse?
Here. So.
No. So, I probably should have asked him a different question. He's going to go to Genesis 1.
Okay, so what question do you want to ask me instead?
Okay, yes. Okay, so here's the thing. The idea that the Bible teaches that the earth was made 6,000 years ago, when your question you just asked me, it assumes that the Bible teaches that, which many biblical scholars are going to say that's not what. So the creation story in the Bible in Genesis, they're going to say that's not what it's saying. So let's take, for instance, the idea of 6,000 years. Do you know how the idea of 6,000 years came up? I think he was a monk. He went through and he said, well, hey, I have all these chunks of time that are talked about in Genesis. And he went through and he added these up of like, well, this guy had this many sons and he died when he was this many years old. And he went through and he did that. And he said, okay, I got 6,000 years. But as scholars have pointed out, there are problems with this. There are a lot of problems with this. One is it assumes that this genealogy, that the numbers that are being given there are trying to give the actual literal number of years that those people lived. But in the ancient world, numbers were often used not just to convey exact quantitative amounts of something. They were the number that was used to convey something about the person. So I don't remember the specific numbers off the top of my head, so I'll just use an example. Something like 400 or something like that it was a number that was associated with a perfection or fullness. And so they might say this person lived 400 years as a way of expressing that they lived a full life, or something along those lines. So if you go into YouTube, since you like using YouTube, there is a video by Inspiring Philosophy where he talks about the academic biblical scholarship that surrounds this topic, and he argues that like these numbers here, they're not the author never meant for these to be understood as giving you the exact amount of time that they lived and the times they died. Rather, they're using these numbers in a way that's consistent with the culture of that time to give a genealogy, but in doing so to make statements about the person involved. And so right off the bat, if we're just relying on being hyper literalistic about those numbers, there is good reasons to think, just from a biblical studies, ancient Near Eastern studies perspective, that that's not what the author intended. One second, let me make one other point, and I'll let you ask your question. The other thing is that in genealogies often, or at least sometimes, they don't always include every single person in the genealogy. We have genealogies of the ancient world where some people are excluded. And so the type of argument that one gentleman, the 6,000 years guy, is he assumed that every single person who was ever ever lived in that time period, that they didn't skip anybody in the genealogy and things like that. This is making assumptions about Genesis 1 being trying to give us a type of scientific account of what happened in the first times. But you have scholars, for instance, William Lane Craig came out with a book recently in which he argues that, a couple of years ago recently, in which he argues that the genre of Genesis is something called mytho-history. So it is historical. It's trying to give it a story of historical things that happened, but it's doing it in the language of mythology. And so you have guys like Mike Heiser, who is an ancient Hebrew scholar, and he points out that what we see in Genesis is they're doing theological polemics. I won't go super into depth to this, but just the idea is, I and many Christians who are concerned with finding out what the Bible say, we're going to say, listen, the Bible's not teaching that this is a literal, scientific description of how the earth was created. And so your question about, how am I pick and choosing the Bible? I'm not. I'm just looking at the Bible. I'm looking at the context it was written. I'm looking at what I think the author was trying to convey. And then I'm taking that data, and I'm also considering the data we have from the scientific world.
Okay. So I'm gonna say some things. Please refrain for 30 seconds while I give my point. Okay.
I got you. 30 seconds.
Very nuanced explanation about how the Bible is taken too literally, and that you have to do further investigation. You have to read between the lines and come up with this conclusion that it's.
Oh, you might cut off.
Sorry, I got a phone call. That you have to read between the lines in the Bible, and everything is metaphorical, and a lot of the things can't be taken word for word. And so I have a problem with this, because then you're misguiding millions, if not billions, of people.
Can I pause you? I think you've done 30 minutes. I think you've done 30 seconds.
30. Just, dude.
I think you've done 30. Okay, go for it. Listen, but you're misrepresenting my point. Is the issue?
There's things like Adam and Eve, where this doesn't make sense, okay? Because why would God even say Adam and Eve were the first two humans in the Bible?
Okay, great. I'm going to pause you because I've given you 30 seconds and you're misrepresenting what I said. Okay, I didn't say all of the Bible is metaphor. I didn't say that you have to read between the lines. I'm going to tell you what I would tell any fundamentalist Christian, and believe me, I make those guys mad at me. You can go through and look at my TikTok videos where I argue some theological points, and people get mad at me. When we're looking at what the Bible says, the Bible is an ancient document. It's a collection of ancient documents. And what I'm saying is, we need to look at the culture. We need to look at the context. So if I'm looking at an ancient document, well, one thing, I'm reading something that's in a different language. So I need to understand how those words are used in that culture. I need to know what phrases that they use are used in those cultures. I need to know the concepts and how they think about things. So what I'm saying here, I'm not saying, we can just dismiss it.
Why is it always up to determination? Why is I think Muslims do this a lot better. At least Islam does this a lot better where the Quran is written in one language, and it's written in stone, and it's unchanged, and it's very.
Let me pause you there.
The Quran, and all Muslims are.
Let me pause you there.
Word in the text. So why is God such a pure?
Let's pause. First off, you've been okay. So let's pause. Okay, chill. Back.
Why are millions?
So first off, the Quran is not written in stone. If you look at Islamic sources, this general Islamic narrative is that Muhammad received this revelation for the first time. He got his first revelation in a cave. Then there was continued revelation. Muhammad, during his lifetime, did not put anything down. His followers, after his death, or sometime when he was writing, they would write things down on sometimes on tablets or on leaves or things like that, and then later on. No, so it's not written in stone. Okay, yeah. But listen. So it's not written in stone. The Quran
text. Why is it very mistranslated multiple different times? Why is there so many different?
Okay, so let's
issue.
pause right there. Whether or not the Bible is I want to finish the Islam point before we get into this. The Quran, like the idea the Quran hasn't changed, is something that Islamic polemicists say, and it is factually inaccurate. And I'd be more than happy to point you specifically to Islamic scholars who will point you to two different Quranic manuscripts, and they can point you to differences in the Quranic manuscript. So Dan Brubaker is an Islamic scholar who has a book called something like Changes in the like corrections in earliest Quranic manuscripts or something like that, in which he has pictures in which he goes through and he gives instances in which we have early manuscripts of the Quran in which they have been erased and stuff have been written in. So this probably isn't super significant to you because you're like, I'm not Muslim. But if you're going to make the claim that like, oh, even Muslims have it better, like, no, Muslims are like no different on this than us. They also have a book that is written by people
that are as whites, but they don't have sects. They have Sunni and Shia, but I mean, again, the difference between Sunnis and Shias aren't that galactic compared to like the not billions, but thousands of different sects of Christianity. Like there's Catholics, there's Protestants, there's sects between different Catholic people. There's Eastern Orthodox.
So you have Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, and you have Protestant. So for the most part, Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, and Protestant are going to represent most of the denominations of Christendom. Now, most of these wide sects that you're talking about are going to be Protestants. Yeah, and those came about. Yeah, and most of the things you're thinking of, Baptist, Methodist, Episcopal, like whatever, most of the things you're thinking about are really just within the Protestant denomination. Now, whether or not there are denominations about something, that means nothing about the truth value of it. So let's go back to your question of, okay, why is this the case? So you think that if people disagree, so I want to make something clear. All of those denominations, right, Catholic, Orthodox, Protestants, those denominations agree on the big issues. They disagree on some smaller things. They disagree on, like infant baptism or, what's the nature of the Eucharist or things like that. But they all agree God exists, God created the world, Jesus is in some sense divine, Jesus died on the cross, Jesus rose from the dead, we can have eternal salvation by putting our faith in Christ. Like, those are all things that Catholic, Orthodox, and Protestants are going to agree on. And as someone who has friends from a variety of those, traditions, I have Catholic friends, Protestant friends, and Orthodox friends. I've read, academic works from, these different, different denominations or sects. I'm very confident in what I'm saying here is like, yeah, listen, we quibble about these stuff. We quibble about stuff, like we do, but we quibble about this stuff because we agree on this other stuff. Like, it's not like Catholics are like, Jesus isn't God, and like Orthodox are like, yes, he is. And you're like, that's not, like, like you're making mountains out of molehills when you're trying to point and say, oh yeah, you guys disagree about things. Disagreeing about minute things happens in pretty much any field, any academic field. You can find historians who quibble about very specific things. You can find.
Like this. If I'm a god and I'm making a planet, well, because I want, if my mission is to make a book and make my son come onto planet Earth and explain that I am God and I'm dying for your sins, I'm going to make this message as clear as possible so that there is literally zero mistranslation, there is zero non-truths, there is zero, everyone's on the same understanding that I am the Son of God. Here's definitive proof. Here's exactly what you need to know. And I'm not going to have anyone disagree or misunderstand what the Bible says.
Let's pause. No, pause. Stop talking. Whoa, chill. No, pause. Let's pump it back. What you just described, if God did that, if God said, no one's ever going to have a false belief about this, no one's ever going to, say something false about this, at that point, what you're saying God is doing is he is stepping in and he is unilaterally overriding the freedom of his creatures and taking away their ability to freely choose him. And I and many Christians, I think, I don't have a statistic to back this up, I think probably most Christian denominations, they want to affirm that what God wants from us is to freely choose to respond to him and to freely come into our relationship with him. Now, there are these Calvinists who are like, they're like, God determines everything, and like I have a lot of critiques of them. So do I feel like most Christians. Like I don't know the statistics of how prominent they are, but like I'll critique them with you.
Dude, all these Christians. Why is there whole countries and millions of people that aren't agreeing with you? These same people that you're saying are just making silly misunderstandings would literally say you're going to hell for what you're saying because you're not reading the Bible literally.
Let's pause. So I want to point out where we're at in the conversation here. So we were talking about this evolution stuff, and it seemed like we were going to start talking about evidence for Christianity, and now you're just asking me like, well, why is the world this way? Why is the world this way? And these are interesting questions, and
These
I'm
are
happy to
valid
talk
questions.
about
These
these.
aren't just
These
interesting.
are
These
valid,
prove
but
who right
these
and
are no,
wrong.
these are valid questions, and I'm happy to talk about them. But if you're asking me why is this the case, whether or not, I mean, I could shrug my shoulders and be like, well, I don't know why God set this up this way. And if that's my answer, and for most things, that's not going to be
From
my
the
answer
place you're
because I've,
coming
I've
from, you
thought
can't
about
say
these
I don't
questions.
know.
Well, let me
I don't know
finish.
is not a
No, yeah,
response
I
to
can
this.
say, sure it is. I can say I don't know. Listen, if
No,
you
if we're
go
just,
into
you
no,
started
yeah, no, listen, you
talking
seem to have
about
this premise. No, no, listen, let me finish. You seem to have this idea that if I think God exists and I think Christianity is true, I have to be able to give an exact, precise answer for every conceivable question you could ever think
I
of.
mean, you're
And I
arguing
don't
for
have
your
to do
religion.
that.
You're
Yeah,
arguing
sure.
for
I'm arguing for my religion, and I can argue for that religion because I'm going to point to things, data points, which I think are better explained by my religion than other religions, or my religion being false. I will do stuff like that, but pointing and arguing that my religion is the best explanation for the data we have, that doesn't commit me to having an answer for every question you could ever possibly have. And this philosophy that you're embodying here would be a non-starter in other realms of intellectual study. I mean, the idea,
absolutely
like, can
not.
you
You
imagine? Well,
disappointed
let
us
me finish. No,
metaphysicians.
well, okay, so but let me like so if I'm not a scientist, but like if I was, and like I make an argument about I did some experiments, and this is the set of data I got, and I'm making an inference about this. It would be silly for someone to start asking me questions, and if I ever got to a point I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't have this message with this other thing. It would be insane to say, well, he doesn't have an answer for this specific question I raised. Therefore, all of this other data he's pointing to for his hypothesis, we're just going to disregard it. That'd be silly
Well,
in
I
science,
mean,
it'd be
at
silly
this
in
point,
history, and it's
you're
silly in
talking to the
religion.
merits of your Christian God. We're past, again. I caved in. I said there's this. We're in a simulation that created a single life organism that evolved to where we are now. You're arguing no. There's an Abrahamic God that made us, and so you're failing to prove why your side of this theism, quote
No, I haven't
theism,
even
is
talked
right and
about
not my
that.
side.
But
No,
that's
but
not.
I'm
But no, wait a
saying
second. No,
in
you were
my
asking me
simulation.
questions about why did God set up revelation in this way. You were asking. You weren't even. We weren't even talking about. If you want to switch the conversation to start talking about why do I think Christianity is true, I'm more than happy to switch the conversation to you at that point. But that's not what we've been talking about. You were asking me why, if God chooses to reveal truth to us, why does God do it in this way? And that is a separate question from what is the
Well,
evidence
that's
for
it.
thinking
You,
that
frankly,
God, my
your
religion is
point
true.
still hasn't been shown because I'm saying why is there millions of
What
Christians
point?
that disagree with you and that frankly you disagree with them, and if the
I
God's
can give
word
you
is supposed to be
reasons
so
why.
pure like
Yeah.
it says in the Bible, like God says don't mistake my word, there's going to be non-believers, and frankly God in that Bible is talking about people like me because I'm a non-believer. He's not talking about
Yeah.
anyone else or different sects of Christianity. He's saying this is the one Bible and this can't be you can't branch off into sex, okay? And because that's not what the Bible says. And there's so many different translations. Again, if I'm a
Wait.
God and I'm setting up a planet full of humans and I want people to believe in my religion and I'm sending my son, Jesus Christ,
But
to
let's
go
pause there.
spread the
Let's pause
message,
right there.
I will
Do
make
you
the
wait, well, let's
message
pause right
clear.
there. Well, let's pause right there. Do you want them to choose you? Do you want them to choose you because they were freely choosing you? Or do you want them to choose you because it's impossible? Because listen, God could have set things up. God could have created us and causally determined you to believe in him. God could have done that, but I don't think God does that because that's not a very meaningful relationship. Like, it means something that I have a relationship with my wife because she could have said no when I proposed or when I asked her out, or all of these other things. Like the fact that this is a freely chosen relationship, that is significant. And so what you're saying is, oh, well, God could have done all these things, but if it comes down to, so let's, for instance, I don't think God came down and said, here's the Bible. Like, first off, that's not an accurate view of Revelation. That's not how most theologians would talk about Revelation. Like, I would say God acts in history, and humanity records the actions that God gives, and we write about God's actions in history, and the most significant of those God's revelations in history is the person of Jesus Christ. And so I think that's what the gospel is. Jesus didn't sit down and write the gospel. God didn't. This isn't a Quran thing where God just beams down into somebody's head. I think God acts, and then he lets humans testify about who he is. And I think that God has given enough, data or given enough evidence to make things clearer. But when you say, well, okay, why didn't God set it up in such a way so no one could ever, misunderstand, or no one could ever get things wrong, is because when you say that, whether or not we get something wrong, or whether or not, we misunderstand, that isn't just a feature of the revelation. That's a feature of the people getting the revelation. Because there are people who, if they don't like the revelation and they have the freedom to, choose God, they may, because of their not wanting to accept the revelation, they may, because of themselves, not because of a problem in the revelation, but because of a problem in themselves, they may twist and distort what's been given to them. And that's an aspect of the human, not an aspect of the revelation.
Version of the Bible. Why is this such an easy thing to fall into? If God, again, you still haven't answered. If God is so pure, why is there mistakes, or why is there things that could be missed?
Okay, but I am answering. I think God has revealed Himself, and then He's given us the rational and given us rational faculties to reason about His existence and His actions in the world. I think He has acted in such a way in which He has witnesses, and then He has left it to us to weigh the facts and make a decision.
Well,
so God doesn't step in. No, I want to say I'm answering your question. Yeah, so I'm answering your question. No, I think that God does this because God doesn't want to just come. What God wants from us isn't just to believe that He exists. God wants a type of freely chosen relationship. So I think God keeps a type of epistemic distance. So the way that Pascal phrases this is that something along the lines of, God gives enough light for those who want to come to know Him, and He gives enough darkness for those who don't want to come to know Him. Because here's the thing, you can point to all these Christian sects disagreeing as much as you want. No aspect of those Christian disagreements, none of that affects the fact that God exists, Jesus died on the cross, He rose from the dead. Whether or not I can answer any of these these questions, which are interesting questions, and I'm glad you're asking them. I ask these type of things too. Whether or not I answer any of this, that does not change the fact Jesus came down to earth, He performed miracles, He died on the cross, He rose from the dead, and He said, if you have faith in me, you're going to be saved. That's enough. That's the information that's required for us to get to the point with God where He wants us to know. And everything else is a fun journey where we get to think about this stuff, just like science is a fun journey where we get to figure this stuff out.
Being this very broad thing where all you have to do is respect Jesus and believe that He actually died and then He came back. This is not what, again, you're painting this broad picture where that's all I have to do, when I can go down the street in Los Angeles, go to a Catholic church and say, well, I believe evolution, and I think primates evolved to humans, and then they would spit on my face and say, you're going to hell for believing this. So how come His word got translated differently to billions of people? Why are these people saying, I'm going to hell for not believing the same thing?
Yeah, okay.
Again, I would love Christianity to be exactly how you want it to be, but this does not make sense. And the way you're thinking is limited to very few amount of people. Okay, very few amount of people, because across all countries, Armenia, Israel, Egypt, Egyptian Christians, European Christians, even Asian Christians, I have yet to find anyone that argues the same path we're arguing. Okay, if there are people like you at a mass scale, I have yet to see a single country or a single culture or a single group of people, frankly, that have consistently said what you're saying. Okay, because if what you're saying
let me answer you. Okay, so let me read you a section from the Bible then. Okay, this comes from the earliest eyewitness we have of Jesus. This comes from Paul. This comes from some of the earliest writings we have. This is Romans 10:9. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead, you will be saved. That's the Bible. If you tell me, listen, what I'm telling you may be different than the Christianity you hear down the street, and I hate to hear that, but that's not. Okay, listen, but that's not the. So we can talk about homosexuality, stuff like that. But you're telling me that
This is not true.
No, listen. But you're changing the subject. No, listen. You stay with me, because you're the thing you were just saying to me is the things that I was just telling you. Said, boy, I wish that was true, but that conflicts with what this other person is telling me. I just read you a verse from Paul where he says, if you confess with your mouth. No. Okay, but listen. So we're talking about
Christian. This is a sin.
No, don't change the subject. Listen. I'm more than happy to talk about sexual ethics, stuff like that. But you're changing the subject. Stay with me here. I said that in order to be saved, right? I gave this idea of like we have to bow the knee to Jesus. Like I take faith to be about allegiance and stuff like that. So it is recognizing Jesus as Lord and allegiance to him, right? You said to me, I wish that was the case, but that's not what you hear. And I'm telling you, and I can go to other sections in the Bible as well. When Jesus was dying on the cross, he had a criminal hanging next to him, and the criminal said, I'm up here dying for something I deserve of. You don't. Will you please remember me when you're in heaven? Will you remember me in your kingdom? And that was enough for Jesus to say, you're going to be with me in paradise. When Jesus was sitting and reclining, he had a woman who came and washed his feet with her hair. She performed this act where I think it was perfume. She poured perfume on her feet, and she washed his feet with his hair. This is an act of service and submission to Jesus. And he says, this woman's faith has saved her. Something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing it. But he says, this woman, she has been saved. Like, go out, your faith has saved you. Over and over again, Jesus points to simple acts of submission to him, and he says, that's it. Like, you're saved. Your faith has saved you. Salvation is not complicated. A lot of Christians make it more complicated than it needs to be. Hot take, a lot of Catholics, a lot of Orthodox, a lot of Protestants, they add things onto the message that Jesus has said.
That's so right.
Now, if you say, hey, that sounds different.
Literally no Christians believe in this, bro. Again, this is the...
But this is what the Bible says. So your objection then isn't to the Bible.
Bro, answer... Okay, fine, sure, okay. So can you argue this? Can I be gay and Christian following your specific line of Christian beliefs? Can I be gay, have a husband, have gay sex, but as long, like you said this, sorry, I don't want to sound like a
First off,
like
don't yell at me. Yeah.
All I have to do is believe Jesus Christ died on the cross. He died for my sins. The Trinity is true. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. But that's all I have to do to be Christian, like you said. And all the other Christians, they're just taking it too far. And it's a hot take, like you said. This is a hot take. They're taking it way too far. All you have to do is believe Jesus died on the cross. And I'm sitting here being Christian. I can be gay, have a husband, do all these sins, do all these different things, right? But it's
no, I didn't say you could sin. No. Wait, let's pump it back. Let's walk the brakes. I never said you can just go on and keep sinning, because the idea that what Jesus cares about is faith, it's belief, it's allegiance to the rightful Lord of this universe, okay? And you cannot be following and be obedient and submissive to the rightful Lord of this universe if you're actively in rebellion against him. So the way that C.S. Lewis phrases this is that we are rebels who must lay down our arms. We have been in rebellion against the rightful Lord of the universe. And what this Lord is telling us is, hey, if you just lay down your arms and stop fighting against me, like, all's good. Like, you're going to come into my kingdom, we're going to have a great time. But there is a condition there of that act of submission. You have to lay down your rifle and say, I'm going to stop being rebellious. I'm going to stop being disobedient. So no, you can't be saved if you're going out unaliving people, you going out, doing that, because all of that stuff is incompatible with believing Christ and believing in him and all that stuff.
You believe in
Do
evolution.
I know?
You believe in full primate evolution, that we came from primates, and it's a known fact that being gay is part of the animal kingdom and part of evolution. And there's a reason why people are gay.
Why
Why are
you bringing this up? It seems like you're just
part of science. You said you're.
Listen. Well, let's pump the brakes. We can talk about what type of sexual ethics the Bible teaches. I'm happy to talk with you about that in a second. But you keep on. It seems like throughout this entire conversation, you're just continually like throwing different like things at the wall.
These are Christian beliefs and values that don't make
sense. Okay, but listen.
Atheist.
Okay, but there's no contradiction here. You were asking me why didn't the way we started going down this line of thought, because you were asking me why didn't God just make it clear? Why didn't God just make it simple? And I'm telling you, he did. Jesus said, faith in me, belief in me, you're going to be saved. And I'm explaining to you because at that point, you're not believing. Because belief in the ancient world and the way that Jesus is using it and Paul uses it, and there's a good book on this that I can recommend to you by a scholar of this topic, is called Salvation by Allegiance Alone. And he goes in and he looks at this word that's translated for faith and belief. And that word, it has a couple different, it's semantic range. It includes things like trust. So that's an idea that comes up a lot of faith is, trusting in Jesus and what he's done for you and things like that. But faith, that word, it has a meaning using, and it's within its semantic range, and he argues that this is how it's used often in the Bible, is it's an idea of a loyalty. It's an idea of allegiance. So belief in Christ, believing Christ and, being saved through our belief, that's not just, okay, I believe Jesus existed, like I accept that proposition as true, I'm good to go. Belief is bowing the knee. It's giving one's allegiance to the rightful king of the universe.
Okay.
And part of giving your allegiance to the king is not habitually breaking his laws.
Okay, I understand. I have to follow his belief and the way he likes to do things, right? But I'm going to tie this back what you said pretty much an hour ago, where you believe in single life or evolution, and you believe that humans came from primates, and you believe all the science that's been put forward.
I want to make clear, I'm open to something like that, like if that's guided, if that's how God creates, if God creates through that process. I'm open to something like that. I don't have a firm view on that, but I'm open to God creating in that way.
Okay, so I was created, I am attracted to men, and evolution says why I'm attracted to men, because it's beneficiary to a hunter-gatherer to have a gay role in a family, because that's important to survival. Okay, and so
let's pause there. There's nothing about having so there's several things here. First off, I don't think that we can say every aspect of yourself that you have, that's something you were specifically created to be that way. Because there's an idea in Christianity, and this is an idea that I think probably a lot of world religions have, although I don't have a statistic for that.
I believe every Christian has, including you.
No, listen, you're not listening to me. No, listen, there's an idea in Christianity and in other religions of we have gone astray, we have fallen, we have engaged in practices that are bad. And we have used the freedom we've been given us to do bad things, and there's various different ways of cashing this out, and more specifics, but I'll keep it general for there. And so if you point to this, like if someone like Jeffrey Dahmer is like, oh, I'm Jeffrey Dahmer, I like eating people or whatever, he can't just say like I'm created that way. Like no, like that is when you engage with that, like any of those desires you have, that comes about from this fallen state that we find ourselves in, and from that fallen state that Christ came to redeem us from and to transform us from. So you can't just point to all these specific things that, like, oh, like I'm this way, therefore God must have specifically created me this way. Like, no, that doesn't follow. And also, like, you are like really firing from the hip here, making claims about like, oh, it's evolutionary advantageous to have a gay member of your tribe or something like that.
It's an evolutionary fact that there is being homosexual is a fact, okay, and it's proven that it is part of evolution. It is.
Let's pause there. Let's pause there. I want to pull out what you just said. I haven't denied that homosexuality happens. I've never denied that. So if your whole thing is, oh, it's a fact of science that like homosexuality happens, yeah, homosexuality happens. Nobody's debating that.
Okay. So
nobody's debating that gay people exist. No. But your claim is, how is that the Bible going against evolution? If the Bible says that there is an act that we as conscious moral agents are engaging in, and that this is wrong, by your same logic, I could say, well, evolution got us here, and we what's the word? How do I say this without TikTok restricting me? If I essay someone, you know what I'm referring to there?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So SA, unaliving people, theft, all of those things are just as much a result of this evolutionary process as homosexuality are. So listen, but this is your argument, is you seem to be saying, listen, this process gave us this thing that exists, therefore the Bible says don't do this, therefore the Bible goes against evolution, and that's just silly. Like that doesn't, like these are choices that we make as conscious, embodied moral agents. How we got to the point of being conscious embodied moral agents doesn't mean that process gave us these specific things. Like this is just a really sloppy argument.
So
can I ask you? So good.
The SA did not happen on a mass scale when we were hunter gatherers and we were still evolving. However, being gay.
Well, let's pause. Wait, do you think there's been less SA in human history than there has been homosexuality?
Oh, 100%. Yes. So. I see. This is one thing I specialize. I can talk about this all day.
You don't think SA occurs in the animal kingdom?
Not to what we think SA is right now. No.
So you think every time an animal mates with another animal, you think that animal gets explicit verbal consent?
My point is, there was some point in evolution where you don't have the intelligence to even consent, and this is something.
Okay, let's pause there. Let's pause there.
Chimps don't
So
go
if,
and say,
let's
have
pause
sex
there.
now.
Let's pause there.
They're
No,
like,
no,
oh,
let's
I guess
pause.
I'm
Let's
having
pause.
sex
Whoa,
now.
no,
That's
no, let's
part of
pause. Let's pause
evolution.
about that. So you said there reaches a point where up to that point you cannot give that consent. Like they're not developed cognitively enough
Yes, this is
to,
not. Yeah.
I can say the same thing about homosexuality. I can say, listen, yeah, you can point to things in evolution where this happens, and yeah, we've all seen a dog who just humps everything inside. Like the same explanation you're giving about SA, I can do that exact same thing with
No, so let
homosexuality.
me
This
explain to
isn't
you.
going to get you where you think it's
Homosexuality,
going to get you.
my brain, say I'm homosexual, right? My brain, since birth, I've always been programmed in my brain cognitively to be homosexual. And I've done countless, I could talk to you about studies about homosexuality all day, 24/7, okay?
Cool.
Homosexuality is a fundamental part of evolution. And let me explain to you, okay? When a
Wait,
mother
yeah,
gives
just go ahead.
birth to more than one child, the chance of children becoming homosexual becomes greater the more children the mother has. And for the way
Let's
this
pause.
makes
Let's pause
sense
there.
is
Let's pause there. Whoa, let's pause there. Okay,
okay.
so first off, that's trivially true. If I have let's say there's a 1% chance for any person that has any person that exists. Let's say I'm just going to pick a random number, 1%, 20%, I don't care. Let's say it's a 1% chance of that person being gay. Let's say it's a 1% chance of them engaging in SA. Let's just say in general there's a 5% chance for every person that's born. It is a trivial mathematical truth that as a mother has more children, there increases the likelihood of that 1% thing being hit. So, like, I play video games, so if I'm killing a monster that has a 1 out of 100 drop rate of an item I want, yeah, the more I kill that monster, the more likely I am to get that drop. Like, that's trivially true, and that's true of
Yeah.
everything. That's true of SA, that's true
Yes.
of unaliving people, it's true of theft, like...
The way it works, though, the statistics, the first child has roughly like 1% chance of being homosexual or bisexual. And then me, I'm the fourth child of my mother, and I'm the only one that is homosexual. Okay, and this is a stat that goes along with most families, right? And this is the reason why is because
So wait,
once
what's the
mother
fourth
successfully,
child's probability? What's the fourth child's probability of being gay in your world?
I think it jumps to like 10 to 15%, right? After like the second child. And so the reason for like I'm trying to
I'm gonna
explain,
want
and you're
I'm gonna
stopping
want
me.
the receipts on this. Yeah,
Okay, sure. I could stop
you
and
can DM me,
okay.
like, if that's fine.
Before I start giving you evidence, let me tell you the reason why. The role of a homosexual man in a family when you're last in being born is to be more protective, but also follow the same archetype of a man. So because you could be a gay, and being gay means that in a hunter-gatherer family situation, you're more likely to stay and help the mother and
Why
help
should I
your
think that
father
any of
and
this is
feed,
true?
rather than to go out and hunt. So this is why you're more submissive in the way your brain works, and you find.
Why should I think that any of this is true whatsoever?
So do you want me
Like,
to
so
give you
this, so
statistics? Do you want me to give you
yes, like, by
facts?
all means, you can
Facts.
welcome to DM me stuff. So listen, it seems to me like what you're giving me is a proposed story in evolutionary psychology of like why homosexuality occurs or something like that.
Well,
Now,
this
a
isn't just
proposed
human. This is every species. You have to argue. This goes for every single species. We see this in
Okay,
primates. We see
so
this
give
in
me statistics that tell me that for every, fourth child or whatever, like there's a 10% difference or something like that for, the percentage of a first child being gay versus the fifth child being gay
I
or
will
something like
gladly
that.
do this, man. Listen, all I want is I don't want your view. I don't want you to get upset that you're gonna get less viewers because I'm gonna be on Chrome. I'm gonna be providing you the resources. Okay.
That's
Again,
fine.
I'm in my
First off,
car.
whether or
It's
not
gonna be a
this is
lot
true
slower
doesn't
because you can
affect
type
my
in your computer.
position. No, first, I want to make clear whether or not what you're saying is true doesn't affect my position. I'm just immediately skeptical of this. So I could completely grant this, and it wouldn't change my mind at all.
Okay, so can we argue? Can you give me the benefit of the doubt and give me just for a second so I can?
Oh,
See
sure,
what
go
you're
for it.
arguing?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, give me the benefit of the doubt here. Okay, and so what I'm saying is true that a male being gay, being generally on the latter half of a mother in a series of births from a mother is beneficiary in a hunter-gatherer situation because the male that is homosexual is more likely to be submissive and won't be
Wait.
fascinated
So that's
by.
what I'm going to fight you on, though. Like, you're saying that, so there's one claim, which is the statistics, There's one claim which is this is statistically what we see, like this percent of the fifth child or whatever who's gay. But there's another thing to make the claim that
it's not going to always be the fourth or fifth child. The first child is always going to be hetero. Not
but that's
always,
what you're claiming. Then what is your statistic to say that the percentage chance of? Okay, so then what is the percentage? What is the
higher the more a mother gives birth? Okay, so
okay, but why should I think that's true? It seems like the testable thing to see whether or not that is true is we look at fifth children. We look at the percentage of them which identify as homosexual. Then we look at first children. We look at the percentage of them which identify as homosexual. And then we compare those percentages. That seems like to be the way we do that. Right?
That's exactly the process of what happens.
Okay, but then you were just telling me that for the fifth child, it's not just like a set percentage. Is it that it's a range? Like, what is the percentage difference between a first kid and okay?
You might have misunderstood me, or I might even explain it wrong potentially. But that is how the range, generally speaking, is higher the further down in you are in the line of birth. Okay, that is just how it works. The more a mother gives birth, the more the more likely the child will be homosexual or bisexual. That is.
So you're saying so you're saying that later child has a higher percentage than the earlier child. I want to make sure I'm understanding this.
Yeah.
How significant is the percentage difference?
So are we going with you're going to give me benefit of the doubt, or are we going to stop? You're not going to research. You're going to make me go find the source and give it to you. Which is it? What's going to happen here? Because you have a computer. Again, I'm in my car. Okay.
So you're making these claims. I mean, if you give me like a paper name or an author name, I'm happy to look for it.
Search it up, you'll get sources. Search it up, you'll get sources.
Okay, yeah, I'll look it up. Sure. Like I'm not going to be able to do that like within the time period of this conversation, but I will look this up. But tell you what, but one thing I do want to narrow in on the idea of, let's suppose I just grant the statistic thing. There's an additional claim you're making, which is that having that fifth child be gay is an evolutionary advantage, that is somehow beneficial to the tribe in question. And I'm going to probably fight you tooth and nail on that, because that just seems obviously bogus. And if anything, having that later child be gay, or having them be gay, is less of an evolutionary advantage when it comes to the genes of the parents being passed on, because in that case, child is not passing on the genes. And so I'm like your story, the story you're going to try to give me about this being advantageous, I'm going to fight you a lot on this.
Okay, so the way it works in the animal kingdom, this is just basic evolution, but I even learned this in school, frankly. The way this works...
So can we pause for a second? Can you be less of a jerk?
What do you mean, man? I'm just telling you...
You're being condescending. Dude, you're an extremely condescending, extremely arrogant 18-year-old. I just wish that you could hear yourself. You have all the confidence and the hubris of someone who just came out of high school.
I am gay, and so I know... I don't like it when people say my sexuality is wrong and that I need to fix myself, because I think the way I am is perfectly fine.
Okay, wait. So then let me. Is your main issue with Christianity then that it condemns homosexuality?
No, my main issue is the countless contradictions, and I'm naming you one that applies to me personally and that I am most informed on.
A contradiction between what?
You said you believe in evolution and you're a Christian, and I'm saying evolution grants the ability of people being gay because it's beneficiary.
I never denied the ability of people being gay. So in order for your argument to go through, you would have to give an evolutionary argument for evolution being morally good, like morally permissible. And from an atheistic standpoint, you're never going to be able to get to any type of moral claim just by citing an evolutionary process. So if you want to try to create
the ability we have as a human comes from evolution. We see because it's evolutionary beneficiary. It helps us. We have ears.
Okay, cool. So is SA. So is unaliving. So is theft. So is all those things according to you. You just said every single thing comes from evolution because it's evolutionary advantageous. Chat, didn't we just hear him say that?
Yes,
okay, so according to him, we shouldn't tell people not to SA, right? According to what you said, we shouldn't tell people not to SA because evolution gave us this, right?
Do you want me to explain this to you?
I would love for you to.
When we were hunter-gatherers, the way society don't get SA in modern society is the most horrific thing that can happen. It's because we live in a society where this is bad. Consenting is always needed, no matter who you are. And it's a terrible thing that can hurt you and give you trauma.
But wait a second, evolution gave us it.
Let me finish, dude. Let me finish. 10,000 years ago, when one tribe contacted another tribe, there wasn't there was no female humans that felt that there was a lack of consent, because when you have so many hormones and you have so many sexual tension built up.
Wait, so when
you
was
find
this in
another
the
tribe,
evolutionary story? Is this for humans? Is this for humans, or is this
for most mammals? Okay.
okay? So, but wait, so you're saying they were humans who they didn't have the idea of I don't want this. These are humans we're talking about.
They wouldn't think of it as say the way we think about it, because we live in a society where you have to both parties consent. If you're a male,
Okay, so wait. So the idea. So let's define essay in a really broad way.
So, dude,
One
you're
person.
putting me in an awkward position where no matter what I say, is
Yeah, I am.
good. And don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I am, because this is,
objectively,
you're
in society,
100%
that
right,
is
because
gross.
you haven't thought through your argument, and I'm going to hold your feet to the fire on the crazy stuff that come out of this argument. So you're 100% right. I'm going to make you sound really silly. Like, yeah, because this is how philosophy works.
Things that happen throughout history and evolution is silly. There's a reason why we exist, because we have to go through a lot of hardships. And like I said, I'm telling you, SA as a concept didn't exist 10,000 years ago when we were
Sure, neither did homosexuality. Neither did homosexuality.
And when you
Homosexuality
contact another
didn't.
tribe,
Cool. Homosexuality didn't exist as a concept by that same logic,
yes, it
right?
did. I mean,
But wait a second. How are you going to tell me? Wait. Let's pause. How are you going to tell me that these ancient people were apparently not developed enough to have the idea of I don't want to be banged right now, but they are developed enough to have this type of sophisticated like sexual disposition of recognizing that I'm homosexual?
Those are both.
You have to make up your mind, dude. You cannot have this both ways.
Yes, I can. Being SA
No.
wasn't necessary. Women weren't out and about saying don't do this, because they didn't necessarily felt like they have any
No,
say in
whether or
any
not they said
situation.
that, whether or
You
not
have
they
to
said
think
that,
like
is yes
you're
or
a
no?
caveman, dude. You're making me sound insane because you're not.
Yeah, because you
thinking
sound
in a
like
caveman
one.
Situation.
No, because
have
you
to
sound
think-
like one.
Dude, you have to look back in history and see how things were when you're hunting food and life is at max stakes all the time. Life is not going to be so simple and so like. Everyone has their own rights. I'm gonna have a certain amount of, I have this role. I have this role. In a hunter-gatherer family, it doesn't work like this. It doesn't. Not everyone gets guaranteed rights like this. It wasn't like you get told what to do by the leader of the family pack. That's just how.
None
it
of that's
works.
relevant to the stuff I've said.
This is
So I
evolution.
understand.
Evolution is
I
what
understand
makes us
that.
today.
Yeah, but under this, you're telling me that these people, they did not. There wasn't even the idea of one person is having sexual contact forced against them when they didn't want it. You're telling me that didn't exist for them. But at that same time, you had people. They didn't have the concept of, ooh, I don't want this right now. But you're telling me at that same time, they were developed enough to have the concept of, I want this, but only
One
with
is
men.
Give
Me a specific, give me an argument then that at a point of time they had that ability to not understand the concept of SA while they simultaneously had the ability to understand homosexuality. Give me an argument.
Because you're looking at this through a modern societal lens.
No, I'm looking at this through your
I'm going to
lens.
say this one more time because again, you're not understanding. Say you are a caveman. You have built up hormones. You are looking for any contact of any other tribe. Okay, you come in contact with another tribe, a female woman in that tribe. You make contact with them. You realize that everything in your body is telling them they're attractive because your need to reproduce.
But what if she doesn't want to? What if her body's not telling that?
What if
at that point?
Her body will be telling that.
No.
That's how that works.
Excuse me.
Every
I'm sorry.
woman
Are
has
you telling me?
estrogen in
Whoa,
her
let's pump the brakes. Are you telling me anytime a man's body is telling him he wants to be with her, her body's going to be telling her that she wants to be with him? Because if that's what you're saying, you're telling me there is no.
But, I mean, if you would go along with what would happen.
I think it's going to be a good idea for you to get off this live before you say something that might haunt
No,
a potential
I'm just
future
talking about
political
how it works.
career.
Were you not listening to me when I said essay in modern society is the most horrific thing you can do besides murder?
You just suggested that any time a male comes in contact with another tribe, you said any time in which that male has a sexual desire to mate with one of those women, that she also is going to want to mate with that male. That's what you just said. You said any instance in which there's a desire in one direction, you're going to say there's a desire in another. That's what you said. Are you going to take that back?
Without any societal structure, without having any formal laws or anything, this is something that happened
No. Yes or
10,000 years
no
ago.
is in every instance of a male desiring a
I
female.
just
You can
answered.
tell me every symbol. So you're saying yes in those ancient times. You're gonna say every time a
Yes,
male
and
wanted a
you have
female.
to add along with that because you're gonna make me sound crazy without any societal structure, without
No,
any
no. So
societal
okay. There's
norms,
no societal
purely
structure.
based
Great.
off
There's no societal
hormones and
structure.
how everything worked in your body. Yes, that's what happened.
Okay, well, so let's pause there. You're gonna tell me anytime I put a man in a room, a man in a room, and a woman in a room, you're gonna tell me that their hormones and their desire for sexual activity with
No,
each other, you're
because
gonna tell me they're
if
perfectly
you were
gonna match
born
up.
and raised in that room and you know nothing and you're basically a caveman because you weren't taught how to speak, you weren't taught how to use the
Dude,
restroom, you weren't taught
I'm gonna be
anything.
honest with you. I feel like so earlier I was telling you that you need to read like Christian arguments and
Dude,
stuff like
where am I
that.
wrong in
At
this
this
line of
point,
reasoning? You're just
at this point,
you're not arguing with me.
you would do better to even just read atheist at this point, because that is
I'm
how
telling you evolution and how,
depraved this is. No, show me any study which says any time in our ancient history, any time a male was sexually desiring a female, that female was also going to be sexually desiring that male.
can I ask you
Show
a
me that
question
study.
isn't repetitive? Can I ask you a new question, which is going to put this whole thing into your whole point of view in question? How is reproduction supposed to work in a caveman scenario?
No. That's a separate
10,000 years ago,
question.
how
Give
is
me
it
no.
supposed
You
to
made a
look like?
claim. No.
What is it supposed to look like?
Nope.
Answer.
You're not getting out of this. I'm not going to let you put. You're either going to answer this question, you're going to admit you can't
I'm
back it
getting
up, or
out
we're
of
going
this
to
by
end the
asking you
conversation
this
here.
question.
No,
I'm
no.
asking you this question. What is it
Give
supposed to,
me
what
the
does reproduction look like?
scientific data. Give me the scientific data which supports your claim, which is that in our ancient history, any time a male of a species desires a female of the species, that the female of the species is also going to desire the male. Give me
I
that
didn't say any
scientific
time.
data.
I didn't say any
That's
time.
what you
I said
said.
before 10,000 years ago when there was no societal structure
Okay,
whatsoever.
10,000 years ago. We're 10,001 years ago. Give me scientific data that any time 10,001 years ago in which a male desires a female, that female is also going to be desiring that male. Give me that scientific data.
Okay. I'm going to give you scientific data. Okay. I promise you I will. Okay. I promise you I will. Okay. I guarantee you I will, if anything. Okay. Now, before I do that, okay, again, I promised you, okay, answer this one simple question is all I ask. Okay.
No, I'm not answering
What-
any question. You're going to give me the scientific
Dude,
data, or I'm
because
kicking
what-
you off the screen. Or you're going to back up your claim. You're going to admit what you said was silly, or you're going to give me the scientific data. You're not changing the
This
topic.
is what is reproduction supposed to look like in a caveman situation? Just answer that, dude, and I'll give you the source.
No, because
What
you're
is
changing the
reproduction
topic because
supposed to
you
look
know
like?
you're cooked. You
I'm
know
not
you've made
cooked.
claims.
I'm not
You know
cooked.
that you've written
What does
checks that
reproduction look like?
the scientific literature can't cash.
How did a male and female have a baby? If not, it would. If it not that.
They have a baby through sexual reproduction.
Yeah, and why would the female agree to do this?
They don't always agree. I'm sorry that I have to be the one who explains this to you at 18 years old, but not a woman doesn't always agree. There's been lots of essay about history.
So don't you think if one female family member gets SA'd in a tribe like this, everyone else is going to sit there and let it happen? That's not how that works. You have loyalty to your family. That's not how it works.
So are you?
Mass essay happening all the time? That doesn't make any sense. I think now you sound silly by even suggesting this.
How? So I'm by the way, I'm not going down this line of thought because I am going to hold your feet to the fire. You said every time a male desires a female, the female desires the male. Give me the scientific data for that. I answered your question.
Okay,
you thought my answer was silly, but that's fine. Now you're going to give me the data.
Certainty. If I said 100% certainty, every time a female would, because I don't think I said that, but you're saying 100%.
You did.
I'm saying 95% of the time.
Give me the statistic for that. Give me the data. It's the patent that 99% claim up.
This is really just an eyeball, but I'm telling you, here I'll find. You know what? I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna go find the source. Don't kick me off the stream, okay? Don't, because I'm gonna go find.
Okay, so but I want to make clear what you're looking for. You're looking for a claim which says 10,001 years ago, 99% of the time, any male of the species desired a female. That same field.
Hunter-gatherer.
Okay, so 10,001 years ago. So you set that as the date. You said 10,000 years ago. I'm just going with what you said.
Okay, so I'm gonna go right now and find a source where it says what I. Okay, here.
Oh, I'm also going to tell you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm going to tell you that I'm going to give you another 10 minutes, and then I'm going to go to bed because it's almost 1:30 a.m. And this is a ridiculous argument. So I'm giving you 10 minutes. Like we can.
Couple minutes.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
I'm gonna bring you the source.
Hey everybody. I have not been reading most of the chat. I've seen the small remarks. If you have enjoyed the conversation and if you've enjoyed hanging out with me, please remember to follow. I may or may not be doing. Someone said 1:30. Where do you live? I'm currently traveling with my wife in Europe, and we're 8 hours ahead of Central Standard Time. So I don't like permanently live here, but we're just traveling in Europe at the time period. So yeah. Oh. Oh dang! I was gonna do the little thing. Yeah. So if anybody, I also see that there's like 6 people who've been requesting to come up. I'm sorry I didn't get to you guys. I get a little like focused in on these on the conversation sometimes. I'm trying to do these live streams more. So if you liked this, follow and check out my YouTube. On my TikTok profile, I put up some stuff on my YouTube that's a little bit longer form content that doesn't always do super well on YouTube. So I have stuff on my TikTok on my YouTube as well. What else can I pitch while I wait for him to give me these non-existent facts? Oh, I wrote a book. It's not about this type of stuff. It's about Christian theology. It's about atonement. That's also linked if you click on my TikTok profile and go to my Amazon author page. It's about how is it that the Bible depicts our salvation coming from Jesus? What is it that he did that helped us? I wrote a book about that. Someone said, "Were you recording the conversation?" Yeah, TikTok automatically records all these, so I'll be posting these. I'll probably post this full one on my YouTube after this. Yeah, because this has been this has been an eventful conversation. Somebody said how much it costs. My book is like $10 on Amazon right now. You can get it through ebook and it's $10, or you can get it through a physical copy and it's like 15. Yeah. So okay, I'm looking at the comments. I'll be responding to stuff in the chat until he comes back. And if he doesn't come back, that's fine. I'll just go to bed. I don't want to disparage people. Well, I won't say what I was about to say. I'll be more polite. So I see people are arguing with each other in the comment section. Yeah, this conversation has taken quite the turn. I didn't think this is where we would end up, but here it is. If anybody puts stuff in the chat, I will look at it. We're gonna hang out here together for 8 minutes. I'm gonna drink water. Stay hydrated, guys. Did you threaten your wife with eternal and punishing her if she said no to your marriage? No, I didn't. That's an interesting tactic, though. Somebody said, can you explain to the guest how he's bridging the is-odd gap? I feel like that's how his argument feels. Yeah, I don't. He got upset with me earlier when I tried to explain evidence, so I feel like going to the is-odd gap is going to be a little bit beyond the realm of possibilities here. He said somebody said tell people to like. I'm not gonna tell people to like. Usually I will, but I'm gonna go to bed pretty soon because, like I said, I'm gonna give him another 7 minutes, and then I need to go to bed. So at this point, if I tell people to like, it's just gonna be getting people in here to only see me for a few minutes. So we're gonna dwindle out here. We're gonna dwindle out together. And so yeah, insert Jeopardy theme. I wish I had music that I could play to you guys. Somebody says my fingers hurt. Oh, thank you for everybody who's tapping the lives. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. He isn't gonna find that source. Yeah, I know. I'm liking anyways. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate you. Someone says, Since said, haha, bro, when Jesus had a conversation with Legion, Jesus did not reason or allow him to reason. Yeah. So here's the thing. I want to make clear, I have conversations like this for the sake of the people who watch. Like I said earlier when I was having this conversation with Small Demo, like, I don't expect him, like, after our conversation to, like, switch his beliefs. I have these type of conversations because a lot of these guys get up and bully Christians who, just being honest, aren't educated on this stuff. He's used to arguing with fundamentalists, and that's not representative of Christianity. And this is not... That's why I have these conversations, is so you guys can see, like, these guys, like, there's a lot of, it's all just a bunch of fluff. Like, it's a bunch of bluster, and they just hop around from one thing to the next. He hasn't been able to stay on argument with me. And I feel kind of bad trash talking in this way while he's, like, away, but also, like, he's been going from one topic. Oh, he left. He just left everybody. So, yeah, he made claims, and I asked him to back those up because his claims were clearly ridiculous. And then he took about 3 to 4 minutes saying he's going to find them. He didn't even come back in to tell me, hey man, I couldn't find it. I'll DM to you later. He literally just hopped off. He literally just ran away. So anyways, yeah, thank you everyone for hanging out with me. Thank you everyone for the likes. Maybe I'll keep doing this. I mean, like yeah, maybe I'll keep doing these type of conversations more. Usually how it goes is like I will do these live streams and I'll like get in the habit of doing them regularly, and then I will like fall out of it for a while. So I'm gonna try to keep doing these. If I do these, they will probably, I think, probably be around this time frame. This is actually surprisingly a good time frame for me because my wife's asleep. So we kind of share like a desk area right now while we're traveling and like Airbnbs and hotels and stuff like that. So she's asleep, and I stay up because I don't know. I'm like because this is who I am, and then this also works out timing wise, I think, with my American audience. So, anyways, I'm gonna stop talking. I hope you all have a good day. Have a good rest of your evening, and I'm gonna start moving towards bed. So. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I saw someone pop up in the guest request. I was going to see if it was Demo, but it's not him. So, okay, you guys have a good night.